welcome to episode 127 of the Nerds at Large Gaming Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Darby Hallman.
I am Jeff Mann.
And I am a guest here once again, Jacob Hamill.
Just a guest. He has dropped down, folks. You hate to see it.
Shame.
No longer special. I mean, I'm here all the time, so
you're still special to us.
Special.
Yeah. You're still special to us, okay? I'm sorry that one time I tried to say you're not special. You are special.
Oh,
Jacob.
thank you.
Like we're burying the hatchet. We're rectifying it. Well, gentlemen, I want to know three things from you. Number one, how are you doing? Number two, what is your favorite color? And number three, what you've been playing. You can do it in any order that you so choose. Jeff, why don't you lead us off?
Okay. I'm doing pretty good, I guess. Favorite color, red, I guess.
Okay.
He guesses.
Yeah, I guess.
He's just going 1, 2, 3, kind of boring. Yeah, that's good. Go ahead, Jeff.
Because I'll forget otherwise if I go the third one first or second.
I'll remind you until I probably forget to. All right,
exactly. I can't trust you.
All right, least important of the three, number 3.
Yes. Let's see. I've been playing some Witcher 3. Got some fun in. I'm like 30 hours in now.
Nice.
I guess Darby and I have stuff to talk about. Not on here because spoilers. But something I guess of interest to talk about here is I've been playing Tem Tem.
Tem Tem.
Yeah, for the people who do not know, this is a very heavily Pokemon-inspired game that just launched early access on Steam. Little indie game where you catch Tem Tems and you go through an archipelago. And
what is that?
What is a Tem Tem?
Tem Tem are creatures you catch inside little carts.
You mean like another series?
Yes.
Where there are some monsters that may or may not live in your pocket.
Pikmin.
That's
yes,
it.
Pikmin. Yes. It's a Pikmin clone. I didn't want to say it, but no.
The truth comes out.
Truth comes out. Yeah, I'm really early in the early access build.
But this is basically more or less it is a Pokemon MMO. Like
yes.
It's obviously not officially licensed Pokemon thing, but it is in almost every way like trying to be a Pokemon game. Not that it doesn't have things on its own, but that is obviously what it's going for. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to go. I don't like saying clone for this kind of stuff sometimes because that has a negative connotation for it. And, it's kind of, this is how we build genres, people kind of taking stuff from there and kind of building out from there. Like, not everything was a Street Fighter or ever the first fighting game clone back then. Like, fighting games are very similar in their structure, but we don't call them clones.
I do feel like there's different categories of, like, there are many examples throughout games of one game seeing what another game did, and basically, like, they are taking, like, even the little things, they're taking, like, everything that people love about that game and transitioning it to a new one, and you've seen, like, horrible cash grabs versions of that where it's a subpar version or whatever, but then you've also seen Fortnite. Fortnite was absolutely took everything that PUBG was doing, transferred it over, and then added things onto it. And it feels like Tem Tem is it's so weird to say. Tem Tem is more of the latter, where it's like it's taking everything Pokemon did, but it's also throwing its own stuff in the mix.
Yes, it is doing a lot of ways based on what I've seen so far, and kind of rectifying complaints people have with the current state of Pokemon games. For example, the characters so far are more of actual characters, is more actually good writing. Like there's actually some clever writing so far, which is nice. And also one thing that's quickly apparent is fighting is actually can be difficult in this game. I know that's hard to believe. A Pokemon style game giving challenge.
You mean you can't just give your Tem Tem 5,000 candy bars and make them level 99?
No. I mean, there might be something like that later. I don't know.
Well, also with Tem Tem being an MMO, I'm sure that's a really big deal. What is that experience like?
So, as far as I play, like I said, I'm early. I'm like technically in the first route, but the route's big. So it's not as like, if I said I was the first route of Pokemon, it's like, oh, you barely started. I'm not that far into this, but the route's really big with a bunch of trainers and stuff. So I got some grasp on some things. But as far as the MMO stuff, based on what I've seen so far, what it entails is you see other players running around. Obviously, their avatars and their Tem Tems. You can't turn that off. I know some people was an instant turn off to some people because they just want
a single player
solo experience. But as far as like being able to play a single player based on what I've played, you can do that because the story seems to be like, you know, the way it is Pokemon. You start in a town or whatever, you pick your first Tem Tem out of 3, and then you go off on an adventure, and they're NPC trainers and stuff, and there's a story and all that. So you can play the thing completely solo based on what I've seen and probably get a good experience about it. You know, in some ways will probably be better than Pokemon as far as a single player story experience and all that. As far as difficulty and actually care about characters and the story and stuff.
And as I would say, I think it's an important balance. I think this game needs to be please people that like they are the only one playing this game. They haven't gotten their friends to play or whatever, but that single person can still have a good experience just playing, like basically playing it like a Pokemon game. They need to please that, but also I do feel like they have a unique opportunity where Pokemon's such a big franchise. There's going to be a lot of friend groups that they all individually play Pokemon, but then now you get a chance to pretty much have that same gameplay, but you're together. Let's go to the town together. Let's go take on this gym or whatever the equivalent together. I think that definitely, like, I could see that taking off in a way. Like, it's never going to be huge, but I could see it, you know.
Yeah, and to go on what you said about doing stuff together, the way the battles are structured, it is all double battles. So there are always 2-on-2 Pokemon, or 2-on-2 with the Tem Tems. Pokemon has double battles too, but that's kind of more of a side thing that happens occasionally, where it's primarily single battles for the story. But it's all 2-on-2. And what you can do as far as playing with other people, you can play in co-op, where you're both controlling, like, there's one Pokemon from your team and one Pokemon or Tem Tem. Sorry, I'm going to be doing that a lot from your partner's team. So you're both controlling one and fighting together and all that, which I think will be a fun way for people to experience this game. Which I've already seen people doing that, and they seem to be having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And as far as the battling goes, like I said, it's more difficult, and that is quickly apparent. And I heard it only gets more so. A way that is also different ways from Pokemon. All Tem Tems can learn up to 4 moves. That's still the same. But instead of the PP or power points that each move has, so there's a set amount of time you can use that move, your Tem Tem has stamina, which each move costs a certain amount of stamina.
Right.
And once you get to 0 or where you would go beyond 0 to move, you can still use those moves. But your Tem Tem gets overexerted and it actually hurts itself when using the move.
Uh-oh.
So there's a risk reward.
So you can't keep on spamming a move.
Gotcha.
Without any risk to it, which I think is cool based on what I've played so far. And yeah, it does help. It makes you think, and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of the basic, like in more so in Tem Tem than Pokemon based on what I played. You need to try to do the whole. You got to use Tem Tems that have a type advantage over your opponent, or you're probably gonna get wrecked.
Yeah, and also, I mean, are all the moves taking from the same stamina bar?
Yes.
Whereas in Pokemon, the PP is attached to a move.
Each individual move.
I know.
Like some moves will have 20, some will have 5, some will have 10, whatever.
So that definitely makes it harder. It seems like it would make it harder too. That, like, you know, in Pokemon, it's like, all right, well, that move's out, whatever. I can still use these other ones. Whereas that, if it's all taken from the same, you know, you kind of have to.
Also, something else to make it so you can't just blow through it, even with the whole stamina system. Some moves, I'm forgetting the name of moves, but I picked the. I think it's a mind type starter, which is pretty much a psychic type equivalent of the psychic type Pokemon. It has this really, pretty strong psychic move as of right now, or equivalent to very strong for right now. I can't use that as the first move. It's got to charge up. I got to wait at least one turn before I can use that move, and a couple other moves to do that too. So it's trying to make it so this is difficult.
Yeah, so some interesting twists on the kind of turn-based Pokemon.
Yes, and again, I'm early on, and I'm like what I've seen, but I have been reading a bunch of impressions, and it's been really positive so far all the way around. Of course, there's some things where like it could be better, but this is a small indie studio that's kind of being put out there now because they're trying to do a style of game that only the most popular IP in the world is doing.
Yeah.
So Yeah, so like on the first day, the servers were overloaded, so you couldn't really get in or without having the problems. But by the second day, when I got it, I mean, it took me a little bit to get in because the queue was so big. But once I got in, I played for probably 2 to 3 hours straight, no problems whatsoever.
Nice.
Frame rate was good. I had no problems. Though there was one problem towards the end that kind of sucks that I need to go back in and see how it does. I evolved one of my Tem Tems, and then I switched it out, or I put it to the front because in this game, the Tem Tem at the start of your party follows you around.
Right.
It reverted back to its previous form.
That's weird.
Yeah, and when I looked in there, yeah, it's just completely back to normal. I was like, oh, that's weird. Hopefully, when I level up again, it just evolves and stays that way. And it's one of those things like, this is an early access game, so...
Yeah.
So, like, because Pokemon Sword and Shield, I mean, people still love that game, but I think among hardcore Pokemon fans, it was kind of a little less well received. People were kind of critical of it.
Yes, very much so.
Do you see this, since it's in early access, as they add more features, do you see Tem Tem maybe stepping up and kind of becoming a runaway success among people who may be a little jaded with how Pokemon has kind of stagnated over the years?
I think so. I think this has a good chance to be a decently big success for the small of a studio, because they are taking a lot of complaints people have from Pokemon and kind of doing that stuff better or whatever. Hearing what people complain about, I'm sure they're obviously Pokemon fans. They probably have those same complaints and trying to make a Pokemon style game that kind of fixes that stuff. And based on what I've seen from me actually playing the game and people's impressions, they seem to be doing a good job at nailing it. And because it's in early access, it'll just get better as it goes as more stuff get added. The only thing that may make people hesitant to go to it, honestly, is the fact that the monsters themselves aren't Pokemon. They aren't the designs they grew up with and loved, and they have a different style and all that. It took me a little bit to warm up to the designs too, just because they were different, but I also like Digimon, so not like I'm used to having different style of monsters and stuff.
Right.
But once I saw the Tem Tems in game and all that kind of stuff and just the world and all that, it's like I grew to really like the designs I've seen so far.
Yeah, I don't think Tem Tem's ever gonna have like the random like kids or like even adults who like don't play any other video game but Pokemon. There's a lot of those. I don't think Tem Tem's ever gonna get them, but I could see
never.
Tem Tem taking off with like the actual kind of more gaming audience that likes Pokemon. It's not gonna replace Pokemon, but it could be a cool side thing for doing the things that Pokemon doesn't do, like as far as the actual like Pokemon, the moves and everything, but also having this added element of being able to play with your friends and doing, I could see this taking off, especially in comparison to other MMOs.
Yeah, well, well, I agree with you to a point with that, but I could see some kids and some older people get into this game that, aren't hardcore necessarily because it is a Pokemon-like game. I don't think it's going to happen while it's in early access just because it's on PC, but once it gets to Switch...
That is huge, yeah.
Once it gets to Switch, I think that's when it has the potential of doing that to a point. Because, I think back to when I was a kid with some things, and I see something that was similar to something I liked, whether it be Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever, and got into it that way. Yeah, I imagine there are going to be a good many kids, as long as it's marketed right, and it actually continues to be good and be a success, that happening to a fair number of kids.
And especially where, like, Tem Tem kind of has the luxury where, like, Pokemon Sword and Shield is obviously tied to like a DLC release schedule, and this DLC pack, I have to imagine, is probably gonna be the only thing that Sword and Shield ever gets, is what I would expect. Yeah. Whereas Tem Tem, from now until the end of time, can just keep adding things onto this game more and more and more until it's just an absolute insane amount of content.
And kind of the good thing is, as far as the content and continuing to release stuff is, because I think this led to some of the problems people have with Sword and Shield. Pokemon games and everything got to go with a set schedule based on everything. Like, everything's got to be on a tight schedule as far as it keeping the anime and the games and stuff on track. Tem Tem doesn't have to do that. They can just release things when they're ready and all that, and making sure everything is good and polished and fully has full content and stuff.
Wonder how this game's doing on Twitch.
I don't know. I did see something that in the Resetter Tem Tem thread, they were saying that I guess a pretty big streamer who gets like 20,000 viewers was streaming it, and they were people in the thread were kind of happy because like, hey, that's 20,000 more eyes seeing the game.
Yeah, totally.
So I imagine most Poke streamers or Pokemon YouTubers, whatever,
Poke streamer.
yeah, are looking at this game, whether it's making a dent or how they're liking it and stuff. I imagine it's going to be some that like it because it, for reasons like I'm saying and other fans are doing, but then there are going to be some naturally like they're saying Pokemon,
Yeah.
which is going to happen. So
Very interested.
Yep.
Very interested to try to keep tracking this game. Though.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the conversation around Tem Tem is like in December.
Yeah, me too. Because I could see it being like it's bigger. It like kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I could see it being like, oh yeah, Tem Tem. Remember Tem Tem? I could see it going either way. But
yeah, I think
this is trending up for sure. This is a very good launch. But
I think the biggest thing, or like when we see if there's a big draw or not, is after the console/Switch launch.
Yeah.
Or it fully launches in general. Some people aren't just going to go after an early access game, which is fair.
All right, Jacob, you want to tackle these 3 questions in whatever order you see fit?
What were the questions again?
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing super.
What is your
15
favorite
minutes
color? And what have you been playing?
Okay, well, I'm doing super. My favorite color is Vanta Black.
Ooh.
No, I'm just kidding.
That was the color that like dude like copyrighted or something and like kept other people from using. It was like the blackest black.
Yeah, it's like it sucks in all light. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It looks like a void in the world.
They like use it on the space shuttle or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
If I could get a Vanta Black T-shirt, I would wear it.
Please do.
It'd be pretty cool.
Would it like burn your body or something? Like the sun, it absorbs the sun.
I feel like the second you wash that shirt, it's like ruined.
Probably.
And then as for games I've been playing, just one game, but it's on my top 10 list, so I will refrain from talking about that.
Ooh, my.
Okay. Well, then I'll answer it, and I actually have a surprise one. So I will go. My favorite color is blue. How I'm doing is swell, hanging out with my buds.
That's a surprise.
Talking about video games.
Swell.
And number 3, I actually did play a new game last night. A new game for me. I took control of my destiny with the only remedy I know how.
There you go. You're working it.
Yeah, last night me and my sister put in Control
Sweet.
the video game, and I played. I think I looked at the like IGN walkthrough, and I'm like a little less than halfway. So we actually played a good bit last night.
Man.
And I'm kind of bummed. I should have played this before because as of right now, if I continue to like the game as much as I do right now going forward, it's trending to be like probably top of my 2019 list because my 2019 list is kind of like weak.
Just give a fun little update when you're done with it.
I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it.
I definitely want to. Yeah, I want to talk about it. I cannot even a little pretend to like grasp a lot of the things that are going on in the game so far, but I think that's kind of the point. That's definitely like there's a lot of things in the narrative of this game and the world of it that you're supposed to only know a piece of, and then like try to piece it together and figure it out. But playing this with my sister, she likes watching me play a lot of games. We've played a lot of different games, and we were both like super into like every time there was some cutscene or something that happened, we were both like kind of like, okay, so what do you think is going on? Like, what do you think that is? Like, she has this voice in her head. It's like, who do you think that is? Mm-hmm. What do you think? We were both like surprised because we went into it and I told her nothing about the game. I was like, it's just really weird. It's like, that's it. And we started playing it and we were both just kind of, I don't know. It felt like watching some bizarre, like kind of surrealist TV show, and just like after every section of the game, I felt like we knew a little bit more, but there was a lot more questions too.
Yeah, as you start coming across reports in that game and you read through them, which you absolutely should.
Yeah.
The world will start to make a little more sense. You'll get a grasp of like what's going on.
Right. I mean, I'm sure it's one of those. It's not going to like answer all those questions, and that's kind of the point of it. But even putting that aside, that's what me and my sister really enjoyed. But as soon as I started this game, I'm like, oh, this is like, we talked about favorite setting. This is immediately probably my favorite setting in the game this year. Just the Federal Bureau of Control, or oldest house, whatever. That whole building and just the way that they design those environments are just really, really cool, because it feels straight up like 1984. Like what I would imagine a lot of those things do, with a very like kind of like blunt edges, like the blocky like infrastructure.
Yeah, the brutalism.
They're like brutal architecture where it like looks almost like Google futuristic happy place, but also kind of terrifying and dystopian at the same time.
The coolest thing about the oldest house, and they talk about this, so you should know this, is how it's a building. And if you see concept art for this building, it's in downtown, like it's in Manhattan,
right?
And it's like 3 times the size of like the tallest skyscraper in Manhattan.
Jeez.
But it's a building that can only be found if you're looking for it.
Yeah. I heard her say, like, she said the thing, like, the Federal Bureau of Control, I've been looking for it, and it was hiding right under my nose. And, like, Jenny was like, you literally walked into the building that said Federal Bureau of Control.
Yeah, the oldest house itself is a fascinating part of that world, just in how it functions and what it is, which you'll kind of start to understand a little more as you go through the game.
Well, it's just like every like set that we go to, I mean, I was legitimately like really impressed with a lot of the use of like lighting in that game is probably like some of the best I've ever seen. And I don't know, just every environment, like it has like kind of a horror game vibe to it, but also, like dystopian sci-fi thing. It has a lot of like mixes in there and very like, from what I know of Twin Peaks, just like very like weird, like kind of like you don't know what's going on in a lot of things. And also, I do want to touch on, I think like a lot of people's biggest complaint with Control, from what I've heard so far, has been the gameplay. And I'm very conflicted on this. Yeah. Kind of like you said you are, where I do think it's kind of missing some things that seem pretty essential for a third-person shooter, just like doesn't really have a very good cover system. There's not like a dodge roll. I'm constantly like, just let me roll. Like when I'm in the middle of these fights, like just let me. I need more like evasiveness, and sometimes I think you feel a little too like stiff and rigid while you're doing this. But also in the same breath, I think like pretty much the only power up I have right now is telekinesis. Yeah. But it's really cool. Like telekinesis feels really good to do. When I get into those,
certainly I wholeheartedly agree.
When I get into those like big fights where I have a room full of people and you just like pick up a table, slam it on someone, and then shoot them and finish them off. And I have the like shotgun pistol thing, which is awesome now. And I like those fights. I legitimately feel like it feels visceral and fun. Yeah. But it also, at other times, I'm like, yeah, like Tomb Raider does this better. There's a bunch of other third-person shooters I can see that does some things better, but in other ways, it's like that telekinesis. There's really not much in video games that feels quite like that. That was really, really cool.
It's very kinetic. You can feel the whatever you're throwing. You can kind of like get a sense of like the mass that you're propelling through the air to hit somebody. And as far as like mobility goes, you'll get more abilities that increase your mobility tremendously. Yeah. But I ultimately I came away a little lukewarm on the gameplay. You kind of stop getting new abilities like about 60, 2/3 of the way through the game, and then it just kind of flatlined for me. But I'm curious to see how you feel about it.
I could totally see that happening. That's the thing where I think the gameplay starts off a little like boring. I mean, I think they probably should have given you some of your new weapons and other things faster, because those first few like combat encounters, it's like, this just feels like kind of a subpar third-person shooter. Like I've played a lot of good ones, and this just kind of feels like I was like, oof. I mean, everything looks cool, but this doesn't feel great. And it kind of like the telekinesis, I think, is what kind of unlocked the like cool loop. And then now that I'm getting the new guns, it is really feeling good. But I could totally, like you said, I can see this getting to a point like it's fun now, but I'm less than halfway through. Like I have more than what I've already played left, and I could totally see it getting kind of boring at times. And like it hasn't been hard yet. And I've heard a lot of people say they got to some boss fights, they're like, this is hard and I'm not enjoying it, I just want to be done.
Yeah, I feel that way too. But it sounds to me like what's really pulling you through is kind of the atmosphere in the world, and kind of unraveling this mystery of what the heck is the oldest house, like what is the hiss on all these questions. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but I love the attention to detail this game has.
Yeah.
Or like just the small kind of like world building details, like how you go in and we can't have brand names in the oldest house, so you look in the vending machine and it's just these white plastic bags that says peanuts.
That's really cool.
Like on
I don't
the,
think I really noticed that.
Yeah, look at a vending machine. Did you see what happened to all the portraits when Jesse became the director?
Yeah.
So,
Which that was that's again like kind of the weird horror vibe as you look and it's like, oh wow, that's
yeah.
Which I was really surprised by how much like we were super into it, and just some of the sound design in this game. Like whenever
really
like not spoiling things, but whenever the board talks, like there's different. It's kind of structured like you go through a thing and then you go to this other place, and like it's basically there's this like interlude thing that you keep going back to this place and you hear these noises, and yeah, the board talking to you. Whatever they do with the like voice distortion is just so unsettling.
Oh yeah.
Because
what is this?
It kind of sounds like you have subtitles and it kind of sounds like what they're saying, but also it doesn't. It's just this weird kind of like muffled, distorted voice with this like giant pyramid thing, and it's unsettling.
Are you in the maintenance sector?
I think I just finished that.
Okay.
Where you had to like fix the coolant tank or something else. I went to the research sector. I think that's where I'm at right now. Is the research sector.
Yeah, so you got like the hotline, and so you've talked to Trench.
Yeah.
Like that amazing like looping GIF.
Oh god, yeah,
so good.
That was really cool. And the freaking, I mean, I guess I won't say, but the Law of Three thing.
Yeah,
that was really cool. Where it was like, doom, doom, doom. Oh shit.
Yeah.
And I've seen a good bit of Dr. Darling's videos, which are just very weird. Like I don't exactly know where we're going with this, but I think the very latest one was finally the first one where I'm like, oh, okay, this is starting to like get more creepy and get turned more, you know. But
have you come across any of those VCR tapes? There's a puppet show.
Nah.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Keep an eye out for that. You watch those. That's all I can say about this game is that read every file, watch every video, listen to every hotline conversation with Trench, because that's my favorite part of the game, and I think that part is really well done.
That is the only kind of bummer thing about playing it with someone else is we don't want to stop and like pour over every single document. But
I get that.
We've tried to read the ones that we thought were important, and I might go back and read some of them afterwards. But
yeah, there's a lot of cool moments in that. If you have read a file report prior to a certain part in the game, you're like, oh shit, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Or you kind of read something and like, you know, all the very important details are kind of blacked out. Like they're censored, but like you still get an idea and like just that kind of unknowing, but you kind of have that gut feeling of what's going on or what this thing is saying.
And I think that the game does a good job of giving you just enough like opportunities to piece together what's going on to where you kind of feel smart. Like whenever you notice something, like I don't know, I don't want to. There's something very early you probably know. There's someone you like talk to like right at the very beginning of the game, and there's something you like that me and my sister both called about him. Where we're like, wait a minute.
Something's off.
I just caught that. That's weird, you know. Like, so you feel like you're piecing this together, but it's also like there's so many questions. I don't know. I'm really surprised. I'm really, really digging it.
Yeah.
Like I said, if it stays on this level or ramps up or whatever, I mean, I think it's easily my favorite game of 2019. And,
cool.
And probably would have like ranked on my list in another year, at least right now. I'm less than halfway through, but I'm super digging that environment. Only thing I will say, I know we need to get through. Did you have frame rate problems?
Oh yeah. What are you playing on?
Sweet baby Jesus had frame rate problems. Just a base PS4. I'm playing your copy that you lent to me. And yeah, there are fights where I legitimately just have to point in the general direction where I think people are because the frame is just it's buckling.
The worst part for me is because as you get more modes for your gun. You have to go into the menu to switch them out, and so coming out of that menu, that's like the roughest. That was the roughest drag on the frame rate for me.
For me, it's been just like in the maintenance area. They just had like a giant room full of a bunch of different people coming at you, and like every object in the room is destructible, and you can pick up every item with telekinesis and stuff. It was obviously just way too much for this poor PS4 to handle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this and Jedi Fallen Order have made me like. My guys, we need the next gen so bad. like it legitimately makes me a little worried for this year as far as like the major games performing. Like, what's Cyberpunk gonna fucking do on this machine? I mean, I saw Jedi Fallen Order, and I'm playing on my PC. I'm just saying for the many people who aren't playing it on PC, I kind of worry for them because that's 2 games in a row where like, ooh boy. Yeah. And the load times are pretty bad too.
Yeah, for Cyberpunk, I've seen some people straight up say because of the delay, like, okay, that's a lot closer next gen. I'll just wait for the next gen version.
I don't blame them if you don't have a good PC. I don't necessarily blame you for not gambling on it. Yeah. Because as I was playing this, I was like, I really wish I was playing this on PC. I mean, it's not worth restarting or anything, but like, boy,
or pay
this
for
would
it.
be a lot better. Or pay for it. Yeah. Thank you. By the way.
Yeah, it's a game that like, man, if you don't have like a pretty beefy PC, you're gonna feel it.
Yeah.
Feel it in your bones.
But there's like crazy things. Like we went in the bathroom and like the bathroom in Control, and I like shot the stall or whatever. And I'm used to if you destroy something in the environment, you get to a certain point where it's like, all right, that's all the destruction. You can keep shooting it. Nothing else happens. Yeah. You can tear apart everything, and every shot you do, if you shoot at the top, it takes it off there. Like everywhere you shoot, it's destructible in the place that you shot it. It's a little thing, but like that's pretty wild. You know?
Fighting in the research sector is a lot of fun with all the glass and the things that you can throw around.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to talk about that game. It was a lot of fun. I played it too late. Why did I have to wait till the night before our 2019?
It's a really good game. Not a lot of people played it, but yeah, really, I liked it a lot.
I'm digging it. Alrighty, let's get into our 2019 awards. Almost at February, but whatever.
Better late than never.
So the way this is going to work is each of us have our top 10. For some of us, for 2 out of 3 of us, 10. For one of us, a sad whatever number I got. We have our top 10 games of 2019 that we were going to go down, but before that, we kind of have some secondary categories that were not necessarily related to these top 10 that we're going to go through and give our things for. And then we're going to go through our top 10s, and in between our like whenever we talk about a game in our top 10, we're also going to talk about all the other categories that it won.
Yeah, superlatives.
I guess we could like read off the categories or whatever, and then I'll read off all the categories that we have, and so it'll pop up at different times. We have best gaming moment, favorite story/narrative, favorite soundtrack/score, favorite character, favorite setting, favorite art style, favorite cast, favorite weapon, favorite gameplay mechanic, and we have like potentially overlooked gameplay mechanic, however you want to look at that. Favorite old game that you played in 2019, favorite trailer, biggest surprise, biggest disappointment, and biggest regret. So we're going to kind of go through those bottom 4 basically before we get into the top 10. So I've talked a lot right now with Control. One of y'all want to start off with some of these superlatives?
I can go.
Go for it.
I'm going to do more than just the bottom 4, just ones that I feel are kind of separate from me talking about my top 10s. Mm-hmm. Start with best gaming moment. In the past, sometimes this has been about what's happened in games.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is more around games.
I respect it.
I like it.
I respect it.
For me, I got a runner-up and a number 1. Runner-up, Kingdom Hearts 3 finally releasing, baby.
Hell yeah.
That's a good moment.
That's a very good moment. And talk about more Kingdom Hearts 3 later. So,
What?
Best moment. Should be no surprise. Spoiler for my number 1 trailer. Banjo and Smash. Let's go.
Go to youtube.com/nerdsatlarge and watch that hot video. It's real heartwarming and great.
That was a 20-year-long dream finally realized.
One that you just thought was impossible because of Microsoft, the dealings.
Yep. I got more optimistic towards it because, like, okay, they're being good buddies. There's a chance that it can happen. Still don't want to get my hopes too much. And then that Jiggy just hopped on by and just lost my freaking mind.
So good.
Yep. For fair soundtrack score, I'm just going to say one of my runner-up because it's not in my top 10.
Okay.
It's in one of my favorite old games that I played this year. But the soundtrack's so good, I got to give it a nod. Nier Automata.
Yeah.
I think enough said there.
It's really good soundtrack.
Even I've been listening to the Nier Automata soundtrack while I write my D&D campaign.
So good.
Yeah, and they're all on Spotify now, so you can listen to Nier on the go.
That's like quietly one of the best things Square Enix has done is put all the Final Fantasy and Nier Automata soundtracks on Spotify.
Okay. Well. Oh, man. So, unfortunately, this one category I wanted to bring up, or was like, since we took away the way we were going to do it, the bit doesn't work, so I'm just going to say what the bit was.
Sorry we robbed you of your bit, Jeff.
Yeah. It was for favorite character. I had mine in honorable mentions. I was going to say originally was Byleth. And then I was going to go like, gotcha. It was my Jump Force OC. No, then gotcha is fucking Hop.
Oh, it's Hop.
And
From who?
Is that what
Hop from Pokemon Sword?
Do we land on Hop?
Okay.
No, then my actual favorites we'll get to when we do our pick.
Okay.
That was my bit. Favorite weapon. I could do this in the top 10, but I don't know. I think this is fine as its own kind of.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, I'll probably do that one too. Yeah.
Got 2 runner-up. One, the Mind Control Ray from Outer Worlds. That's the fun weapon. I like just using it on someone. They get hurt while they destroy their friends. They just tear them in pieces, and they get hurt while doing it. Good times. Another runner-up, the Ever After Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts 3. This is the Keyblade you get for completing the Tangle World. It's just pretty much a Rapunzel's tower, it's a Keyblade.
Right, as a sword.
It is more of a magical-based Keyblade. So when it does a super mode thing, you kind of get a staff and you kind of float around and shoot a bunch of lasers and stuff, and it just feels so good during that. It's super move. The tower rises up from the ground. Sora and a bunch of like magical clone Soras go on top and shoot lasers from above and kill everyone. Also, when you're doing your regular attacks with the staff version, you make kind of clones of yourself and you all shoot lasers at people. It's great.
Of course.
And my favorite weapon from 2019 is Bow Wow, the Chain Chomp from The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening.
Even after hearing Bow Wow the Chain Chomp, I was like, where the hell did this go from?
So in Link's Awakening, at some point you get to... in Link's Awakening, Chain Chomps are like dogs. Pretty docile creatures. They'll attack things when they feel threatened.
Good boys.
Yep, at some point you get to walk a giant Chain Chomp, and it just attacks things, and it's great. Favorite old games. I played a lot of really good old games, which is why maybe when we get to my top 10, it's a little lacking compared to other years as far as how many of I've actually played and completed and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of got a top 5 ranking of my favorite old games I played this year. Number 5, A Hat in Time. It's a game came out 2017, I believe. A very nice throwback to 3D platformers. We don't get as much of those these days as I like. It's like a Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie type collectathon. You get little hat power-ups and all that stuff. Very jolly time. Right up my alley, and it was great. Number 4, Ori and the Blind Forest.
Hell yeah.
Very good Metroidvania game. Very beautiful. Great music. Can't wait for the sequel.
Hell yes.
Number
right
3.
around the corner.
Yep. Danganronpa V3, baby. Very, very crazy game.
I forgot you played all these games. Like you played a lot of older games in 2019. I forgot how many.
Yeah. That's and obviously these 5 are another. I guess honorable mention was Ace Attorney with this, which is
nice.
Fantastic. Danganronpa V3, loved it. Go check out the video where I explained Danganronpa to Darby, and he kind of sits there and like, what in the world are you talking about?
Loses his mind.
Still one of my favorite videos we did. It's so weird because it's like if you explain it, it's like Darby has not played any Danganronpa, and Jeff's explaining the last game to him. But
and having to explain some stuff in the previous game.
It was pretty good though.
Yeah. Number 2, Nier Automata.
Hell yeah.
Very, very great game. As mentioned before, the soundtrack is fantastic. The story is fantastic. And while we're still plugging videos, listen to mine and Jacob's Spoilercast where we talk about 2.5 hours about
we go
the game.
in.
We go in. Now, the game's great, and I'm excited for every future Nier game. There is rumor of them re-releasing the original Nier, kind of.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'll play that, and I'll go with the expectation of gameplay-wise, it's probably not going to be great, based on what I've heard.
Yeah, I feel like people are a little overblown with like, oh, first Nier, like the gameplay's terrible. It's like it's serviceable. Yeah, and that's about it. But
and
the story
is
really, really
super
good.
long respawn animation. That's about all I know. But
I don't remember.
Or maybe that's a different
Because
game.
you're just too good. You never saw it.
No, that's Too Human. Is the game
Okay.
I'm thinking of.
And my number one...
Just getting near confused with Too Human.
I did. I straight up did.
My number one favorite old game, probably up there my favorite games of all time, is Psychonauts.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
I just loved everything about this game. Obviously, there's some gameplay parts where they kind of show its age a little bit, but I think it still holds up really well. The worlds you go into, the levels are really fun and creative, and the writing and humor is right up my alley. It is fantastic. In my opinion, one of the best in games. So I love this game. Can't wait for 2. Now, favorite trailers. I'll have my honorable mentions. Get to my favorite. Well, spoiler. I said it earlier. Favorite's Banjo.
We all know.
Yeah.
It had to be.
Runner up, Psychonauts 2. Was one of them, just from a thing of it was a really good trailer to kind of help reintroduce Psychonauts 2, the concept, because it showed one level. It showed, hey, we're 2 consoles ahead from the last game. We had 2 more console releases.
crazy.
This is how crazy we can go with the levels and creativity. And it showed all the writings still there based on the stuff we heard in the trailers, and hint of stuff that they set up in the first game is going to be a big part of this game, which is great. Breath of the Wild 2.
Nice.
The reveal trailer. I think it was a really great trailer of showing it off of like, hey, we're actually doing a direct sequel of a Zelda game. Not something they do often or ever. And enough in there to get you excited about what's going to happen and gives you enough fan theories to kind of go crazy until they actually show off the game. The Last of Us Part 2 release date trailer. I thought that was really good, showing off the vibe they're going for with the game, showing how good the world looks, the gameplay, how at least life is set up since the end of 1, and as well as the reveal of Joel.
Yeah.
And final runner-up, the No More Heroes 3 trailer. We've talked about a lot in the last little bit.
Boo.
Yep, Foo's great, and just as a trailer is really good, but also as far as it accompanying this game, it's really good because it becomes clear, especially after you look at stuff afterwards, these are going to be the villains of the game, so it's not just some kind of random side thing to divert your expectations.
Yeah, but it was still such an awesome way of doing that at the Game Awards. Yeah.
Yep, and biggest surprise, Luigi's Mansion 3.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, you really like that game.
I was kind of excited for this game. It's a game I figured I was not gonna play as much as I liked playing 1 when I was younger, but it came out. Everyone loved it. It's selling great. I played it. Well, I didn't talk about it, but I've beaten it now. It is great, and we'll see where it falls on my list. Mm-hmm. Biggest disappointment, runner-up, Jump Force. Not from necessarily the quality of the game. The gameplay-wise, I've said it throughout this whole year, it's about what I expected. I didn't expect anything different, and I was, okay with that. The problems were sometimes the graphics, some of the weird technical things, and some stuff I'm like, this could have been a lot better.
Or just like no voice acting in random spots. It's just
and
obvious.
Just some weird things like literally in cutscenes, all they're doing is literally taking a static model and moving it across the screen.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And a bunch of stuff like that. And yeah, biggest disappointment, this is a better game than Jump Force, I would say. But I had a lot more higher expectations for it, and this is Untitled Goose Game.
Yep.
I was very looking forward to this game, and I had fun with it when we streamed it, but I expected more from it. I expected to have more fun, especially all the high praises of this game. Again, still a fun game, and I think for a lot of people, I just say a lot of people have so much fun with it. For me, didn't meet my expectations. And biggest regret, there are a lot of games I did not play. Games that I have, like Astral Chain, Resident Evil, and stuff like that. Disco Elysium, I wish I played. But as you tell from my old game section, I play a lot of old games. I'm 30 hours in The Witcher, so it's my fault for not doing it. I'm going to try to get to some of these games at some point.
In the 2020 awards, you'll be able to say, hey, I played Astral Chain.
Yeah.
And I was a cop that became a wolf or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And then it carried a bunch of ice cream.
Okay, that's all on me. That's all for me on those.
All right, Jacob.
All right. So I try to be very editorial with my list this year. So I only have one runner-up most of the time, except for a few ones where I really wanted to throw out another one. But I guess I'll start with favorite old game. The runner-up would be Red Dead Redemption 2.
Nice. We are a very pro Red Dead Redemption 2 podcast here.
I finally got around to it. I loved it a lot. I think the game has definitely some problems in regards to its design and kind of a lot of its mechanics that maybe... When I keep in mind kind of the controversy around that game and the labor issues that went into making it, and then some of the design decisions and some of the aspects to it, it's like, well, maybe in the end that wasn't really worth it. And I think the story kind of dips in parts, but I still really like the game. I think Arthur Morgan is a fantastic protagonist.
Absolutely.
The story of the gang and kind of how it leads into Red Dead Redemption 1 and how that impacts the character John Marston from the first game is really, really well done, really great. And the game also just does a fantastic job of making its world feel lived in, and the way you can interact in, a very simple way of saying hello or, piss off to like anybody on the street. It's a very small thing, but it goes a long way into making the world feel, again, alive and like the frontier. But my favorite old game of 2019 is from 2017, and that is Night in the Woods.
Hey! I'll just hop on it. I'll hop on with you because it's also my favorite old game.
Okay, cool.
I'll just hop on the train with you.
I've been talking his favorite for time.
I know. Yeah, it took me a long time to get to it. But you lead the charge, and I'll
sure. Yeah. So I mean, this is the game that like the more I think about it, the more like I ruminate on it, the more I like it. It works on so many levels, and I think it's a game that very speaks to the time, like the late 2010s in which it was made, and it works on multiple levels with kind of struggling with the way it portrays the failure of maybe systems and what expectations and how society has, in America at least, in small town USA, is kind of decayed. And I think that works on a micro level with May's struggle of her dropping out of college, moving back to her own hometown, and then the mental health problems that come with that. And then also as on a societal level, how depressed, I guess, the town of Possum Springs is, and just that feeling of like, what has worked for people in the past and the systems that we were expected to follow, and like, oh, you do this and you'll be successful, just simply don't work now as they did 10, 20 years ago.
Right. And I think the format of that game was so great for that like just daily walk that you did through town, and you would like there were like stories that had good arcs that ended in good places and everything, but there was also sometimes you would see a character who was out of work. They were like really down, out of work. You see them, they get a job at a pizza place and they're really excited and happy or whatever, and then 2 more walks later they don't have that job anymore, and they're like, it was a very real game where you saw these characters and not all of them ended in good places. And I think Jeff had a similar experience. Like, me playing this game pretty fresh out of college was very, very kind of, hit to a lot of things I was feeling. And like, I kind of talked in the video that I made about Night in the Woods, how I love how, May being this kind of, you're young, but you're also old enough to where like she has some friends that are like Greg, who is, we're young, let's go party and have fun. And like, this is a good thing that we're like, where we are, let's go like have fun and everything. But then you also, in the same age, you have B, who is working like 2 jobs just to get by and trying to support her dad, just barely scraping by, like, mature beyond her years. And you kind of get both of those. You get people pushing you to just have fun, and then you get people looking down at you because you didn't have to do what they had to do, to get by. And I think they just... I don't know, like it was such an up and down game emotionally, and I think that's very indicative of what it is like to be an early 20s person.
Definitely.
Coming out of college. Yeah, that's such a good game.
And I guess my favorite trailer, I didn't really have anything good. Well, not like a good... Last year, I think my favorite trailer was the Cyberpunk 2077 revealed trailer. This
Dope
year,
trailer.
nothing too striking for me. I put down Ghostwire Tokyo. That game looks really cool. But it's more of like a conceptual trailer.
Right.
And the next, the runner-up to that would be 12 Minutes.
Yeah.
Again, looked really neat, but again, more of like a kind of conceptual trailer.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, and I guess like the Cyberpunk trailer last year was also in the same way, same kind of trailer, but no, didn't feel too strong about any trailers this year.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. That's fine.
That's fine.
Biggest surprise. So a few runner-ups. Yakuza 7 is going to be turn-based. That's pretty wild.
Pretty big surprise.
Was not expecting that at all, and I still don't know how I feel
But
about that.
does it also cross over with biggest disappointment?
I wouldn't say that because I have not played it yet.
Potential, yeah.
Get back to me next year. I'll let you
But
know.
did you see? I'm forgetting the Majima summon animation thing.
Oh, I've kind of like turned away, or kind of tuned out all the announcements for Yakuza 7 because like I don't want to know any of that.
That's fair, but I saw it and it is amazing.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I have high hopes for the summons in Yakuza 7.
Yeah.
I guess another big surprise is Resident Evil 3 is coming in 2020.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah, so soon. But I guess the biggest surprise of the year for me is the fact that Deadly Premonition 2 is a reality.
Exists?
That
Yeah,
it
dude.
exists.
Yeah, I still remember
It's
that.
where he's working on it.
Yeah.
Jacob's like text to us immediately like, oh shit, oh my god. Like,
Yeah, it's wild. The fact that game is getting a sequel at all. Yeah, I still can't believe it. I'm excited to get my hands on it.
it's just how casually it was announced. Like I don't think
That's such a weird announcement.
I don't think Nintendo realized what they had. They're like, oh, okay, it's whatever, Deadly Premonition 2, sure, whatever. But like they
Yeah, the way that's like, you figured it's gonna be like some kind of weird port or something. Then you see Deadly Premonition 2, and while I was doing stuff for this, I actually watched like the Easy Allies reaction, for example, and their thing is like, oh, Deadly Premonition 2, and then they noticed the
No.
text at the bottom, and they're like, wait, what? It is what? What?
Yeah.
They're like they were confused about the way it was announced.
Yeah, I
with
think-
something.
Yeah, this is a game that I think it got a 2 from IGN, and then it got like a 9, I think, from Destructoid. The fact that game is somehow getting a sequel is really wild. And the creator of the first game, who has gone independent, is also working on like the sequel. It's pretty incredible.
so wild.
Moving on to biggest disappointment, the runner-up is a game that I have not played, but I know enough about it to feel disappointed in it, and that is Indivisible. I was really looking forward to this game. It's the next game made by Lab Zero, which is the team that made Skullgirls.
Yeah.
Now on Game Pass, Darby, let's go.
Wait, Indivisible or Skullgirls?
Indivisible.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was
Yeah.
on Game Pass. Yeah, I'm actually interested to hear what you said because like I saw some people being like slightly disappointed about it, but I didn't think it was like bad. But I'm really only basing that off of Ben Moore from Easy Allies. It's like the only person I heard talk about it.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead.
Just from what I've seen and what people have said online, it seems with Indivisible that it's very, very light on the RPG elements, and that the gameplay never feels... It's never satisfying or complex enough to be okay without like those RPG elements. Like it's not complex enough to make it an interesting kind of action or fighting-esque game, nor does it have like enough of the mechanics of like an RPG to make it a good RPG game. So it kind of falls in a weird middle where it's
Gotcha.
not satisfying to either of those people. And then I've also heard that or seen that the writing is really, really bad, and the character, the arc of the main character is not satisfying at all. So,
Shame.
it's a game I was really looking forward to, and just to hear all these criticisms of it really makes me really disappointed in it.
Shame.
But my biggest disappointment by far, though, is After Party.
I figured that's where they.
This game, it's just not... It did not play to the strong suits. It's about the team that made Oxenfree. This After Party does not play to the strong suits of Oxenfree, and it kind of goes for a tone that just really did not work for me.
Yeah.
And you don't really get a good sense of who its main characters are. And the most interesting part of the game just comes in way too late. And yeah, just an all-around disappointing game. I did not enjoy the writing of it. I missed the art style from Oxenfree, and I'm a little disappointed. I mean, I'm kind of glad that I played it, so I know, but I also kind of feel a little disappointed with like playing it like at launch.
Yeah.
But
That's a bummer.
It is.
Yeah, I was definitely really looking forward to that game too, and I think partially like everything you said and everything I heard about other people is definitely probably what kept me from like jumping in. Like I definitely had times this year I could have, and maybe I still should give it a shot, but I probably waited too long because we're about to get into this glut of games. But
well, it's only like a 5-hour game, but unfortunately, like I did not like the first 3.5 hours of the game.
That's rough. Yeah, that's not a good sign. It's a pretty bad percentage.
not good. And then my biggest regret, kind of like with Jeff, there's a lot of games that came out this year that I was not really like anticipating, but seemed really up my alley. Like Outer Wilds, Ace Combat 7 looked really cool. I kind of want to play Outer Worlds, even though I know people have kind of changed tune on that a little bit. But the fact that it was pitched to me as Fallout meets Mass Effect, which are two series that are kind of dead, that I really love, and so it's like if I can get like both of those games in one package, that sounds pretty great.
Well, my thing with Outer Worlds is so weird because like it is everything that it's pitched as, and it's probably the best Fallout and Mass Effect game in years. But I just personally have played like way too much Fallout, and it wasn't doing enough different to make me into it. But if that's what you want, then and that's what I thought I wanted until I played it, and I was like, I don't know if I want this, But
I'm kind of bummed that I didn't play Devil May Cry 5, even though I have it. So just kind of like that. Like I wish I had played some more games, but I'm still pretty happy with what I played this year for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess I could say I have no regrets.
No regrets. Hashtag no regrets. I'll get through mine. You will notice in this 2019 thing, this is mostly going to be the Jacob and Jeff show, and I'm going to try to say my piece and get out as soon as possible because 2019 overall was definitely a very weak year for me. Like I definitely won't say it was a weak year for games because I think there were so many awesome games that everyone loved. There was just very little that was up my alley, and then even a lot of the ones that I did that were kind of up my alley and I played, like I had disappointments for like almost all of them. Like Jeff always points out, I'm like, there was only really like Mortal Kombat and Baba Is You and stuff that I had no complaints about, and then Jeff says, what about the Mortal Kombat story? And I'm like, oh yeah, that was pretty bad. So I mean, like there's just not a lot for me this year, but I'll just get through. I'll like start with those bottom ones. I'm gonna go ahead and say like no, I'll save that. I'll do like old game because that's definitely my top category here because I played a lot. Like almost all the old games I played, I prefer almost all of them over the 2019 games. But obviously, we already talked about Night in the Woods is my number one. But my number two, which is also my biggest surprise of the year, is Shantae Half Genie Hero. Which this game kind of came out of nowhere. I'm sure Jeff was kind of surprised when I said, hey, I'm playing Shantae. He's like, okay, where did that come from? I don't know. But it was just cheap on the eShop, and I'm like, you know what? I need this. These jolly vibes right now. So I got it, and I kind of expected to just play it here and there and, not really like commit to it that hard. And I was playing like that and Devil May Cry 5 at the same time, and I ended up just kind of abandoning Devil May Cry and just finishing Shantae because it was just very addictive. It's just the art style and the music and the writing. It's like all of it in that game is just very chill and happy. Like it is definitely not like pulling at your heartstrings or doing anything like that. It's not a deep game like with everything around it, but it knows what it is, and the writing is very like tongue-in-cheek, and it just knows exactly what it is. But then obviously the biggest draw was for the gameplay. What I think is really cool is a lot of Metroidvanias are great, like Hollow Knight and Metroid, and like all of those are amazing games, but they are pretty intense. Like Metroidvanias require a lot of you like kind of walking around not knowing where to go and like figuring it out, and they can be kind of a brutal genre, even though I love them, but you have to be in the right headspace.
That's what scares me away from Hollow Knight.
Yeah, and I've played some of Hollow Knight, and I've already gotten to the point where I'm like, this is really cool, but where the fuck do I go? I have no clue what I'm doing. But Shantae was the perfect blend of it. Had those Metroidvania elements where you felt satisfied and happy whenever you figured something out, but it was easy and simple enough that I never got that feeling of annoyance and dread that I get in some other ones. It was a very kind of middle ground, like kind of easy Metroidvania, if that makes any sense. You know,
Yeah.
it had the same hallmarks of it, but it was never something that was like you kind of had a handshake with that game where it's like no problem is ever going to be that hard. It's never going to take you that long, and for some people that would be bad, and if I'm in the wrong headspace, that would be bad. But I was in the perfect headspace for this game, where I would just pull it up and play it a little bit before bed. I played it on Switch almost exclusively in handheld, which I don't normally do, but this game was just so good for little spurts like that. And all the transformations that you do like really changed the gameplay, and there was, you know, it's not like something like you just use this for this one section of the game. You found yourself like switching between all our different transformations all the time, you know, a lot of times as it goes, and it's just a fun game.
Yeah.
It was just a very, very fun game. I would recommend it to pretty much anyone. It's just, you know, if you're in the right mind for it.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes you just want a cozy game.
yeah, it is super cozy.
Seven
Absolutely
Sirens
feel that.
hype.
Yeah, now I'm the Seven Sirens, the game coming out this year, is now like super high up on my anticipated list, and I probably am gonna pick up Pirate's Curse, even if I don't. Isn't that the name of it?
Yeah.
Which is the game before this one. Even if I don't get to
I
it,
think it's
immediately.
on. It might just be console. I know it's on Game Pass.
Okay.
Who makes the Shantae games?
Way Forward.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Shantae for Smash.
But I'm not going to go as deep into the rest of them, but I have a bunch of shout outs. Transistor, I played for the first time of year. That's like probably the oldest game on our list, or besides like Psychonauts.
Yeah.
But
Shout out.
But yeah, Transistor was an awesome game. Like I knew I would love that game, but like once I actually played it, it's like it's short enough, but like just like Supergiant always has gameplay that is completely unique. It's never like we're aping some genre. It's always like we have some very unique idea, and the whole like kind of stopping time and tactics, but it's also active. It's really hard to explain.
Yeah,
but it's really good. And the soundtrack is
so
killer.
good. And just the visuals too. Yeah. And I really like the world itself. It's very vague, but in a fascinating way. You can kind of like read into it if you want.
Yeah, and that's cool. Like the villain in that game is really like kind of quietly terrifying.
Yeah, he's the best.
He's like he sounds like a quiet doctor or something. He has this very like passive like soft voice, but that kind of makes what he's doing even more horrifying. It was like that's a really good game. Other ones I'm going to breeze through. Beat Saber. Mostly played a lot here, honestly mostly in 2020, but whatever, come at me. Really loving that game. I can now like play almost every song on the Expert, and I'm really proud of that. Final Fantasy 14. Me, Jeff and Alex played like 30 something hours of it, and obviously in Final Fantasy 14 that means we are still insanely early on. So
yeah, I was debating putting that on my list. Like, well, I finished those games and loved them. It's like we're only scratching the surface of 14, but I did.
But yeah, I really enjoy what I played, and I want to I might get back into it like in February before the
Onslaught.
Yeah, the Onslaught happens. I might jump back in. Obviously the game I played the absolute most this year was Overwatch. I've obviously been playing Overwatch since launch, but this year was by far the most I've fallen into it because a friend of me or Alex, who's been on the podcast before, I played with him constantly, and I was super into the Overwatch League this year. I got like to where like I knew every team strategy. It started to feel like the NFL for me. It was really, really cool. You know, I really enjoyed that, and Overwatch was really good for me in this year where I didn't have a whole lot that spoke to me. And then last two, Witcher Blood and Wine, that DLC, I finally finished it, and boy, that's good. That's real good. And Super Smash Bros. All the new characters in the Fighting Pass were amazing, and that was a joy to play all year. Moving on, I'm just going to shout out some favorite trailers. Some of my runner-ups. There are many other ones, but I have the Foo trailer because I think that it was just a really, really good trailer. Even though I don't care about No More Heroes, it was a really good trailer. T-Loud, Last of Us Part 2. I actually I think both
T-Loud.
trailers were good. I know. I hate myself already. I like the I like that trailer for everything Jeff said. I think it's like revealing more in combat and everything, but also like, you know, going more into Ellie and I forget her name, whatever her love interest in this was, and the way they like have Joel in. It's just, we all know The Last of Us, but it looks great this year. And then I could go through every Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer on here. Obviously, I love them all, but the one I'll pick is the Tifa reveal trailer for E3.
Best waifu.
Man, like for Tifa too, but just for like the way that trailer was just like built, and it's just like that was the first big meaty look we had into like what they're doing with this game, and God, I can't be more excited. But my number one is another game I don't really care about, but Diablo 4 at BlizzCon. I still think that Diablo 4 is probably the best video game trailer I've ever seen. It's a purely cinematic trailer, but like, God, it's good. It's real good. It has like an arc, and like, I don't know, Blizzard's just very good at making those trailers. That trailer's awesome.
Yeah. I never got around to watching it. That reminds me.
It's good. It's like 10 minutes. Everyone should watch it. It's good. Biggest disappointment with a bullet is Metro Exodus. Good Lord. I paid $60 for that game.
Oof.
And man, that was the fastest I've like turned on a game maybe ever. I played like 6 hours of it, and in that 6 hours I had like a game breaking bug like 5 times. I had to restart the game, and even when it did work, it's just the combat feels like a PS3 shooter. It just does not feel good to shoot. The survival mechanics were just they were more annoying than anything. The voice acting was absolutely abysmal, and just the story did not seem interesting in any way, shape, or form. By the time I was 6 hours in, I just wanted nothing to do with that game, which is a bummer. I will probably never bite on another Metro game again.
Wow.
I think I learned my lesson there. And then runner-up, I have Goose Game is just obvious. I've expressed everything from there. Like, I'm even more negative than Jeff. I thought that game was very overrated. I mean, great for everyone else, but like it seemed like just a very normal puzzle game. There just wasn't a whole lot to it. And then I have Fire Emblem Three Houses. I mean, you're gonna see Fire Emblem Three Houses like ranks on my like list and stuff. It's like a game that I played 55 hours of and enjoyed a lot of that, but the reason it's on here is because Fire Emblem Three Houses, especially in a weak year, that should be my number one, no question. Yeah. But I think it's probably my least favorite Fire Emblem game I've played, just because I think a lot of things kind of fall apart as it goes on. Like we'll get into it more, but like, I think it overstayed its welcome for me. I think the combat is just like not. It didn't change enough. It's way too easy. I think the social stuff started out good, but didn't stop doing anything new. And it's hard not to compare it to Persona 5 when I was like ravenous for every bit of the social content in that game. In Fire Emblem, it's like pretty much the complete opposite by the end.
You're just sick of it.
Yeah, it just became a chore. Everything in that game became a chore to me, which is such a bummer because this was like by far my most anticipated game. But it is what it is. And I think that's pretty much it for me. I think we can move on. I'll just say, like, I think my favorite setting and art style is already Control, but
yeah.
I'm only halfway through it.
You don't need to play the whole game to just get that.
I mean, really, yeah.
You can play the first hour and be like, yeah, I know how I feel about this.
I played a good like 4 hours last night, and I was like, yeah, this is like by far my favorite setting and art style from anything I played this in 2019. Like, not even close. So.
I'll just let you know, the art style and the setting's not going to get worse.
Okay. We go outside into a fairy tale land. Oh, well, damn. Alrighty. That was a lot of talking. So now, gentlemen, are you ready to get into our top 10s or your top 10s?
Yes.
My top 5 or whatever the hell it was. So let's start with 10. Let's go around. Whatever. Jeff, do you want to start us off?
Okay, well, go through the honorable mentions so I get to 10. Number 13, Untitled Goose Game. Still enjoyed it despite it being my biggest disappointment. I had it kind of runner up for art style. I don't know. I just like the simplistic art style. I think it fits the game overall, what I was going for. Number 12, I have Jump Force. Still, it's much I have problems with that game. I cannot deny I had a good time. Just the simple act of fighting Dio Brando with Yugi Moto gives me joy. That's all I can say.
That's true. I don't think you have to apologize for that, Jeff.
Yes, that's part of the matchup.
But, it's by far the worst game on this list from an objective standpoint. Not even close. Number 11, No More Heroes, Traffic Strikes Again.
I honest to God forgot how you thought about this game. Because I know a lot of people don't like this game. I honestly
So here's the thing. I don't think I ever talked about it.
Okay.
I think I just kind of forgot. I think something went on, so I didn't talk about when I ended up beating it, and just kind of forgot to bring it up ever again.
Maybe a bad sign, but go for
No,
it.
I enjoyed it. I get what people's complaints are. It's a lot more simple thing. It's not No More Heroes per se. It's for obviously with the gameplay and stuff. Some of the little cutscenes and stuff were kind of fun. But again, it's you look at the two I put over. I put it over, and my feelings on that. I still had a fun time with it, and it did do some little things to tease for No More Heroes. They even let you, spoiler alert, kind of play around with the engine at the end for No More Heroes 3. As a little secret ending thing. Or I don't know if it's secret, but you got to do that. So that was fun. But my real number 10, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid.
Nice.
Brought a Power Rangers game here. Let's go. No, this is a really good fighting game.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, it's just a really good 3v3 fighting game. The developers know what they're doing. They can tell they care about Power Rangers in general, and they're doing the best due to the budget. With just what they're doing with, as far as the character choices, it's very heavily on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But that's fine. But what they're doing with the characters and making them the unique, while a lot of the time Power Rangers in the shows, there's not that much difference between the way they fight. They still do the very badly choreographed punching and kicking and stuff,
right?
With little things, but they do a lot to make these characters different from one another, and they do a really good job. And it's fundamentally a very, very, very good fighting game. And they've been supporting it really well, adding characters that are again different. And yeah, that's the game we need to play more. It's really good.
I agree.
All right, so I have two honorable mentions. The first one is Baba Is You.
I didn't know you played Baba Is You.
Yeah, I did. I didn't. I think had I gotten farther in Baba Is You, I probably would have considered putting it on my list. But that's why I'm kind of disqualifying it. It's because I only got about halfway through the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a feat.
That is a feat in and of itself. It's a game that I'll probably keep coming back to, like when I just get the itch to play some Baba Is You. Yeah, really cool puzzle game, and I hear some of the things toward the end of that game get really wild and crazy. So
they absolutely do.
My other honorable mention is Risk of Rain 2. Nice. I played the first Risk of Rain, and I loved that game a lot. It's a roguelike.
Yeah.
And so Risk of Rain 2 adds a whole new dimension to Risk of Rain. The first Risk of Rain is 2D. Risk of Rain 2 is 3D.
Literally another dimension.
Literally another dimension. And they translate the feel and the art style, I think, of the first game very well into a 3-dimensional space. I'm really excited for it. It's still in early access, so that's why I did not include it on my list. They still need to add a final level and a final boss. There are some more characters that they need to add, but
these people releasing unfinished games. Come on.
But I mean, they've done a great job throughout the year, like adding in features and fleshing it out. And I'm excited to how that game will turn out in 2020 when it launches fully. Cool. But yeah, onto my top 10. Number 10 is Astral Chain.
Nice.
So this is the game that I bought a Switch for, and I certainly don't regret my purchase. Definitely not the Switch, because I'm excited to play a lot of Switch games. With Astral Chain, there are elements to it that I found disappointing. Definitely, I didn't expect much out of a story from Platinum, but I think the story here is really disappointing. It's very underbaked. It's definitely ripping off, classic anime you've seen before, and it doesn't really answer many of the questions that it posits, even from the very first cutscene. And so it really feels like it's sequel baiting in a way.
I do think I've seen stuff about it. They're planning hopefully for a trilogy, and that's
yeah, which you still need to make your first game satisfying if you're going to do a trilogy.
Yeah, we know what happened to the last Platinum Nintendo game.
Yeah, and the biggest disappointment for me is the fact that your main character is a silent protagonist. They just
let it die.
They are devoid of personality,
and it seems especially bad because the other, like, if you have a male and female, and the other one is not, right? So like, there's a version where where both of these characters do talk, just not the one you choose.
Actually, well, slight spoiler for the very end of Astral Chain. It's not like story important.
No,
okay,
go for it.
If you want to skip ahead, like I don't know, 20 seconds, go for it. Okay, so the main character actually speaks and gives a closing narration at the very end of the game. I'm like, motherfucker, why weren't you speaking the whole game?
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, but
freaking Dragon Quest 11.
Yeah, but I mean, especially because like there's a lot of things about the world of Astral Chain that is questionable, and it's like, man, I would really like to hear my protagonist's thoughts on, I don't know, anything at all. And also, like, when you play a character action game, like Bayonetta, Dante, even Raiden, like, those are fun characters. It's fun to see them emote and act on screen.
Can you imagine Devil May Cry if it didn't have, if, like, Dante or Nero were silent? They'd it would destroy the game.
But I still, despite all these hang-ups with Astral Chain, I still had a lot of fun playing it. I think it was cool to see Platinum kind of do something a little different, not just a straight-up character action game that they've been doing, but incorporate some puzzle aspects, some like RPG-esque elements, and kind of have a bigger, little slower paced game. And I think it runs very well, and it looks very great on the Switch too. Yeah, which I think is a feat for a game as intense as this can get. And I cannot deny that I did have a lot of fun playing Astral Chain, but I just hope that for the next game that they do address a lot of these qualms that I had.
I wonder how exclusive a group you're in for people who bought Switches for Astral Chain. I wonder how big that group is.
Very small group.
Probably. Yeah, probably. We're probably in the small group of people that bought the game.
Yeah. I know that game did not. Well, didn't they
they did say they were pleased with the sales.
Yeah.
Which a lot of times with those companies, when they're not pleased, they just don't say anything.
Yeah.
So.
Or the Capcom who like sells 8 million copies of RE7 and they're like, we were disappointed.
But it's one of those things that was Platinum that said they were.
Yeah.
It was Nintendo happy is the main thing, because I think it's one of those things that it's co-owned by them, so they both need to get the okay.
And Astral Chain was in like every Nintendo Direct and stuff. It was definitely something they were pushing very hard. Yeah.
Well, I guess we go to my number 9, since it'll be a while before we get to Darby, I guess.
Oh, I didn't know how we wanted to do it. I mean, do you want me to just do my... I have 5.
I mean, so I think... Because it's going to be a thing where at some point, either way, you're going to be not talking.
Yeah.
So might as well get your not being silent out of the way now, and just at the end,
my only potential thing is I might have to go to the clinic,
and
I could do that after I'm done talking. Y'all could just like finish off.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to happen, but it might happen in the amount of time we have left. So maybe I should just go ahead and start now. Start my back and forth now. Yeah. Okay. I'll just do that. Like I said, this is y'all's show for the most part. Whenever I'm done, I can kind of piece, or I can do other things. So I guess we'll do that. Yeah, because it is 3:40, and it's okay. So here we go. My number 5. God, this is so pitiful. My number 5 is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Sadly, like you would think at number 5, this would be something that would be more positive, and I'm not like I sound maybe a little too negative every time I talk about Jedi Fallen Order, but that's just because like this game could have and should have been better. It is, it has the Star Wars license. It has Respawn, who has proven that they're like a really, really good developer, and I do legitimately think they had good ideas in this game. It's very much like lifting things directly from like we're gonna take a little bit of Dark Souls, a little bit of Uncharted, a little bit of like Metroid, and like shove it all together. And I think that was a wise choice, because like in a lot of ways, like the idea of this game I really, really enjoy, but there's multiple things. Like number 1, this game needed about 7 months at least more development time. I mean, that might sound like a lot, but legitimately it's that broken. There's like, this game is held together by string. There's like so many times I glitched through the environment.
But Darby, there's money to be made with the timing.
Oh, they had to get it before Rise of Skywalker, and I know, and like it's pretty clear. And I don't know how much of that is playing on console or whatever, but that's not an excuse. Like, you put it out on PS4, like, it needs to run on the system that I bought it for. That's not my problem. That's yours. But even the like performance issues aside, the story in this game like hints at becoming compelling and good and like a big awesome story, but then it ends up being like so sparse that it feels like by the end, like the beginning and end of this game are really cool, but you get to the end and it's like you have not earned these character moments. Like you're wanting me to feel for this character, and I have maybe had 3 cutscenes with them over the course of this whole game, because and I think part of that is like it is very gameplay focused. It's very focused on the Souls like combat, which is cool, but it also does not lend itself to narrative very well.
Yeah.
Because you spend long periods of time in these environments just fighting people and like fighting your way through. So, but they try to have that, but also have the Uncharted narrative going on, and like they both suffer for that, you know?
That's a hard thing to mesh together and do it well.
It's probably there's probably a reason why Dark Souls and Bloodborne and stuff don't have these cutscenes and trying to do this like paced story like a movie does. You know,
It just doesn't work.
They tried to make a Star Wars movie and a Souls game in the same thing.
Well, hopefully this is one of those examples. I'm going to assume they're going to make a sequel to this game because it's so damn well. Hopefully it's one of those cases of the sequel is so much better than the game before it, because they just learned from it, and well, hopefully it would at least run better.
God, I mean, it will be on next gen consoles or PC. I mean, I should have got this game on PC. Obviously I should have done that at this point, and I do think we have a chance of the sequel just like correcting all of these problems and everything. But this is legitimately one of those games. I was pretty surprised to see how positive a lot of people were on it, because like, it's not bad, but it should have been better, and it was hinting at being better. But that being said, I mean, a lot of the like lightsaber combat is fun. I mean, I think you would enjoy the combat enough as a Souls fan. Like, it's obviously nowhere near as deep as that, but it's also not shallow either. You know, it's fun. It's fun, and like the lightsaber feels like a lightsaber. It feels like this visceral big weapon that you're doing, and a lot of the combat animations were really cool and everything. And it was fun enough, but it's just as the big Star Wars game, and I think people wanted to love this game because it's a Star Wars single-player game. It really does feel like it got a lot of extra brownie points because it's not terrible, whereas it should have been great. It should have been one of the best games of the year, and I don't think it was. Despite being number 5 on my list, I can promise you, I can list off a bunch of games that are not for me, like RE2, Devil May Cry 5, Control. All these games are like miles above this, and I know that already. You know? So sad.
My number 9, Katana Zero.
Cool. All right. Tell me about this game, because I really don't know too much about it.
Okay, so it's I guess 2D action, pixely action game is probably the best way to do it. So the way it works, and part of the reason I kind of stretched the category a little bit, I have this under, favorite kind of gameplay mechanic, or I guess gameplay structure is the best way for me to do it. I really stretched it out to fit it in there. But so the way this works, you got these you're going on these missions as a samurai assassin dude. And throughout this game, you take drugs that help you to slow down time. So the way you do is each technically mission is cut up into different like set pieces / little levels, things you got to do, kind of like Celeste with the rooms.
Yeah.
So the way you do it, you start at the beginning, you go through it, you try to kill people. It's pretty much a thing of one hit KO for you and the opponent. And you can slow down time to help you reflect bullets, all that kind of stuff, help you with movement, all that, whatever you need to do. And the way it's structured in the game is it's him doing like him thinking out what he's gonna do.
Okay.
And then when you get through the end of the level, he actually does. They show a replay of exactly all you do, and
so it's not you like trying again and like resetting.
No. Again, is technically, canonically, he does all this stuff perfectly at all times.
So it's him kind of thinking through. Oh no, that strategy did not work. So let's think that again. That's a cool way to kind of contextualize that. I think.
And there's some cool story stuff that's kind of involves that I don't want to go into here because I want people to play. I think it's a game you would like a lot.
Yeah, I heard it gets really psychological.
Yeah, it does. It's even the story stuff's really cool. All right, it does set up pretty good for a sequel, and I think it's done well enough to where it would probably justify it sales wise, and obviously reception wise, it's been received very well.
Seemed like a game that was like obviously to a lesser extent, but it kind of seemed, how everyone was super surprised by how compelling Celeste's story was. Or not like a 2D platformer, you don't think of that being a great narrative. This kind of felt like that kind of thing, because when I hear about the concept of this, like the therapist and everything, I was like, this actually sounds like compelling. That sounds like that could be like a really cool narrative.
Yep. Yeah, you get kind of choices throughout, which seems like in some cases it kind of does add something to it. And yeah, I don't know, it's just a really fun game, and I kind of dabble with speedrunning it. Want to do more of that and maybe stream
Games
it.
Done quick, watch out. Jeff's coming.
No, maybe if I did enough and felt confident, maybe I can just stream doing that. But
That'd be fun.
yeah, it's a really fun game. It's just addicting to go through the levels, and it is kind of like a puzzle in itself, where you're going through it like, okay, this is where I want to go. I want to slash this guy, and I know this guy's coming, so you got to slash and all that kind of stuff. So it's a puzzle as far as figuring out, and it's kind of like also like Celeste. When you fail, you instantly restart. So you don't feel too bad about restarting.
Yeah.
Or dying or whatever. It's not frustrating or anything. I don't know. It's just a really fun, addicting game, gameplay wise, and also the story part of it is actually cool too.
Sounds pretty neat.
Yep.
It feels like that game came out last year.
It was like
feels
January,
a while
I think.
ago. Yeah.
My number 9 is Faith Chapter 2. Do you guys know this game?
I do not.
Okay, so Faith is it's an indie horror series made by like one guy. And there's so many indie horror games that come out that are trying to be Amnesia, they're trying to be Lone Survivor, all these
Outlast.
Yeah, Outlast, all these kind of great games like in that vein. The Faith series is like, what if there was like an Atari horror game that was like The Exorcist, pretty much. It's really striking in the way that it looks.
But it looks like an old Atari game?
Yeah, it looks like an 8-bit. It's an 8-bit horror game.
Interesting.
And it does a lot with that art style in a very clever way, because it's like, it looks like an Atari game. Everything's very still. Like, there's not a lot of movement going on, but then you see something like move past the window. And it's like that I don't like that. That's a bad feeling. And they also have, if you haven't played it, I mean, there are some cutscenes in it that are really well done that kind of fit in that retro aesthetic. But yeah, it's just a really, it really stands out, I think, compared to other indie horror games, and it does a lot. And I'm excited for the third part to come out, which should be due out this year.
But I got to ask you, as far as talking about indie horror games, it's better than Five Nights at Freddy's.
Answer the question, Jake.
Simple question.
See, Five Nights... Okay, I could talk a lot about Five Nights at Freddy's.
I don't expect him to
Which
linger on
one,
it.
Jeff? Which Five Nights at Freddy's?
I don't love Five Nights at Freddy's, but I think it's interesting for what it is.
I mean, it's easy to make fun of it this time. I mean, I won't deny playing that first one. Like, I remember we were all played it in the dorm room or whatever. Like, several of our friends were there, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a very fun thing.
And I will also say, when I talk about it and think about it, I get hungry for pizza.
Sure. Not lying. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll go to my number 4. My number 4 is Sayonara Wild Hearts. And Sayonara, like, needless to say, it is also my favorite soundtrack/score of the year, because that is the game for the most part. What else did it was my runner-up for favorite art style as well. I was trying to see all the things. I think that's all I had on. Yes. Yeah, so this is, if you're not familiar with this game, it's a very short, like an hour long. It'll only take you about an hour long to do it. You can play it on phones, but I played it on Switch, and from what I've seen, a lot of people say the controls are a lot better, like if on a controller instead of on a phone, which I could definitely understand. But it's basically like you are basically playing through a kind of like synth pop album. It's like an indie pop sounding, like kind of like Churches, but a little more upbeat. It's like, that's how I describe the album. But you are playing through an album, and like every song you have, it's basically like this really cool, colorful music video almost that you're playing, and it's It's not. Would that be an endless runner? It's one of those like you're on a rail and you're like jumping and doing different things.
On rails.
Yeah. It's an on-rail thing or whatever, where you're like jumping and collecting stuff or whatever. And that might sound not up your alley because I don't play a lot of games like that too, but I think they surround it and like put the context around it. It makes it really special because the music's really good and it is telling kind of the story through like a very artistic way of going through it, of this girl having a breakup and stuff. Like you play it and you kind of get it. And also, I will say, I mean, when I was a little bit into this game, I was like, all right, this is cool, but nothing that special. I think in the second half, it starts taking, every song starts being like very different, where the gameplay goes from like, I won't spoil everything that happens, but like there's one in particular, like, you know, you're on this on rails thing and just when it feels like that's all the game is, then like you're on this pirate ship thing and you're going on the ocean and it's like you're still doing things to the beat of the music and things like that, but like the gameplay is completely different and everything's on rails, but it goes places, and especially I think the second half is like way stronger than the first half, I think, as it goes. It was a really fun experience. I mean, I think I recommend it to everyone. I don't think it's like the best thing in the world, you know, as when I compare it to other kind of like smaller games like, you know, Gone Home or What Remains, you know, Edith Finch and just some of these like very small artsy games. It's like, it's not anywhere near that special, but it is a really cool game, especially for just an hour. You can finish it.
Yeah, and if you're into the music, like, it's...
Oh, and I now listen to the music on Spotify.
Yeah.
The album on Spotify constantly. Because it's just a legitimately really good album, too. Like, I know it's a band that did it, but I forgot the name of the band. But, like, it's an existing band.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, like, was the music written by like an
from what I
established band, or was
on
it
the album? It's not listed under their name. It's listed under the composer of the game,
right?
Like I guess composed with them. But on a podcast I was listening to, the guy said it was like a Irish pop band or something.
Okay,
that did it or something. So
yeah.
I need to look into their stuff. I haven't done that yet, but I'm pretty sure they were already a band and then they did the music for this game.
Cool, that's cool.
And yeah, the art style is also really cool. It's very bright and colorful, but you know, it's just really well made game.
Yeah, I'll have to pick it up at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 8. Pokemon Shield, baby. Bang, 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 bang. Little Pokemans.
They're here.
Boy.
This 2019 top 10 brought to you by Nintendo. By Game Freak, sorry. No, they're coming for me.
Different companies. Yeah, Pokemon Shield. It's a Pokemon game. Enjoy it.
All right, moving on.
No, I've talked about this game a lot. Obviously, talk about it a lot even when we're playing on our Nuzlocke. This obviously wasn't a bigger step forward as people would like, and I guess you can assume by my talk of Tem Tem, I wish they did take the step forward, and there is ways to easily move the step forward without drastically changing the game. But I can't deny that I've had a lot of fun with the game in my solo playthrough and doing the Nuzlocke with Darby. Character designs, Pokemon designs, all top notch. Yeah.
I mean, just look at that. Is it the coffin or the wheezing? The design for that, yeah.
Galarian
like,
Wheezing.
how can you hate that game?
It's a 10 out of 10 game. I mean, have you seen the Galarian
It's amazing.
Wheezing?
It's so good.
Yeah, and the big addition to this game, the Wild Air, I enjoy in the console of it. I wish they went farther with it, and it's looking like in the upcoming expansion passes that they are going to hopefully do that, just based on the little footage we've seen.
Yeah.
So, hope this game will get better, and, Game Freak will learn from this in some ways and go forward. I've kind of, for the most part, have made peace with they're never going to go in the same direction, the direction completely, the way I want them to go. But if we have, I guess, like Tem Tem and games like that going that direction, just kind of having Pokemon the way it is, as long as they still do some cool new stuff and the monster designs are still strong, character designs and all that kind of stuff are still good.
I think you have a very good meter reaction to it where like you can simultaneously be disappointed that it's not going as far as it should, but still enjoy the product. Like you can be disappointed without it being like the worst thing in the world and then protesting and everything. Like, and not that like having complaints is very valid. Like Jeff has complaints, but like there's definitely way too many people who are like all or nothing. They're either like it's the best thing in the world or it's the worst thing in the world. Where Sometimes
much.
it can just be a Pokemon game, you know.
Yep.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I've had fun in our Nuzlocke.
Yeah, and people should watch us. We're getting towards the end there.
We are. We
Lost some good boys and
We
girls.
have indeed.
So yeah.
All right, so my number 8 is Judgment.
Nice. Yeah, we haven't talked about this game in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Yakuza spinoff made by the Yakuza team, where you are playing as a ex-lawyer turned private eye, and you're investigating a murder in Kamurocho. I think it's definitely kind of like a gamble to kind of do a spin-off Yakuza game with an entirely new cast of characters. But I think that they do it really great here, and that's why it has my favorite cast, actually, of 2019. I think Yagami, the main character, he stands out from Kiryu quite a bit. He has a great story, but he also kind of, through the game, you kind of assemble this kind of motley crew of odd characters and allies. And so it also has my runner-up favorite character, a guy called Toru Higashi. Mm-hmm. So Yagami, he has an ex-Yakuza guy working for him named Kaito. Toru is Kaito's Aniki, so like his blood brother in the Yakuza. This dude is cool. He looks cool as hell. He has like a big slicked up pompadour and kind of very fashionable Yakuza look to him, and he runs like an arcade parlor where the characters all kind of meet to kind of discuss the investigation and their plan. But he was just like a standout side character in that game.
Nice.
For me. And as far as the story goes, I liked it quite a bit. It kind of tackles some contemporary subjects in Japan and kind of talks about, I think you can read into like current anxieties in Japan and how that kind of ties into the murder that took place, what Yagami is investigating. And what I like the most about this game too is that it continues to make Kamurocho, which is a location that you've been to. I don't know if you've played all the Yakuza games. This is probably like your 8th time being in Kamurocho, but it continues to make it feel like a very vibrant and colorful neighborhood full of interesting people. Who, it could be like the barista, it could be the guy who runs the steakhouse down the street. Yeah. And so you get this really a nice feeling of what this place is, and it feels homey and it feels lived in a very nice way. So Judgment, runner up as a favorite story, runner up favorite character, and then definitely my favorite cast as a whole. Yeah, nice. Yagami, Kaito, his ex colleagues at the lawyer firm. They're all great, and that's pretty incredible too, considering that however many Yakuza games there are, you've gotten used to Kiryu and Majima and so on, Daigo, and the fact that they were able to write all these new characters, like there's not a old Yakuza character showing up in this game.
Crazy way, and to have it still be that resonant, even without a history. Yeah.
Absolutely, that you really feel strongly about these characters, which makes me very excited for Yakuza 7 because I think they'll do a very good job with Ichiban. And
they still have the
all
writing chops, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One day, me and Jeff will climb Yakuza Mountain and get all the way to Judgment throughout these games.
The first Zero, Kiwami 2 going on Game Pass definitely helps.
Yeah. I would still say, if you're interested in Yakuza, still start with Zero. Judgment, I think, has some flaws to it. It has a very, very slow start. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really pick up until about 5 hours into the game. Yeah. Which can make or break it for a lot of people.
I mean, Zero has a decently slow start too, but you do get into. Some batshit crazy things happen decently early. So.
And also, this is a game where you are playing a detective, and so there's a lot of detective mini games or mechanics to it, and they're just kind of not that engaging, I found. Yeah. They didn't really bother me, but I wasn't really having fun doing it. The game is at its best when it's sticking to that Yakuza formula where you're fighting dudes in the street.
Yeah, that's what they do best. Hopefully they do turn-based combat. All right. All right. Well, my number 3 is Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and obviously, I think
runner-up for most disappointing number 3.
Runner-up, but I gotta explain myself again. it's most disappointing because this is fucking Fire Emblem.
I know, it's just fun.
It's fucking Fire Emblem. I mean, like, Fire Emblem should absolutely be over the 2 games that are above it. 3 now probably with Control. Like, you know, like that. It's more just and I played a lot of Fire Emblem and really enjoyed a lot of it. I mean, I think Three Houses is absolutely a good game. I just think that it loses its uniqueness as it goes along. And you know, like that's why it's so disappointing. Is because Fire Emblem was legitimately one of my favorite franchises of all time, and I was in a fever pitch of excitement for this game, and for it to rank 3rd, probably 4th now, is very disappointing. But
absolutely,
yeah. But it does do. I mean, it was a lot of fun playing that at first. I think the social stuff that it introduced in the concept and like at first, like I definitely enjoyed it. I don't think that was like a terrible thing to do. And you know, like going around seeing who I'm going to recruit on my team was fun. It was fun to do that, and it was fun to like level people up in certain ways. And I liked the fact that I didn't mind. I kind of liked the doing away with the weapon triangle and doing more of like stat based, and you can make anybody anything. And there was different, like, there's certain, like Jeff will know, there's certain characters that like they're proficient in some things but they're not in others. But then there's certain characters where like they'll have a weakness in a certain skill, but if you train them in that skill and stick with it, they'll end up being really good in that. You just have to like put in the work for it.
Baby.
Yeah, there's a lot of like very satisfying things with that, and the whole teacher aspect, like managing your class. I think all of that was really, really cool. And for the first a lot of the game, like 30 hours of the game or so, like I think that worked really well. It was just where Fire Emblem fell off for me was just that, again, it got to the point where that social stuff, you were just doing the same thing every time. It just became kind of a checklist where it's like, all right, I gotta get this done. And my number one problem is the game was just so ridiculously easy to where like I was doing and that's bad for a tactics game. That's bad for a strategy game, absolutely. At least for me. Where I was doing very stupid things and not being punished for it. And I compare that to, and this is very controversial, but I think Conquest was so much better because that was the game in between Awakening and here, and a lot of people don't like that game. But in that game, I think about some of those fights, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of here. Or I finally like get to the end and like I lost someone, but it took me so long to beat this battle. I'm like, is it worth letting them die? You know, like is it worth that? And that's honestly like I've had a lot of time to think about why I'm so disappointed in Three Houses. And I think and maybe this is a difference between me and Jeff and me and some other Fire Emblem fans, is I think that's my favorite thing about Fire Emblem is the permadeath aspect and the, you know, am I gonna have to sacrifice this character like after like, you know, Radiant Dawn was so freaking hard that you like got to the end and it just, you had like hard decisions to make with who you're gonna like let die and everything. And it was not even a thought in this game about losing someone. Right. Not even like remotely a thought. If I like screwed up and had someone die, I'm gonna like step backwards a few steps, or I'm just gonna start over because it's not that hard. Yeah. And I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing. Radiant Dawn was my first Fire Emblem game, and it's so damn hard. And I think that, and Conquest is my second favorite, which was kind of a return to form with the difficulty. And Three Houses was just a very, very big step backwards with that. And maybe I saw a lot of other people that liked that it was super easy, and that's great. But it's just not me. I mean, maybe it's just time for me to move on from Fire Emblem into other tactics games that are, you know.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with like when it comes to strategy games like that. Like you need to have stakes in your battle. Yeah. There's not like a sense of direness to the battle, then there's not a lot of tension. You need tension in a strategy game,
especially when it's an 80-hour one.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah. But, you know, definitely still fun. I got a lot of time out of it. So that's why it is my number 3. I mean, I thought about that. I've been talking so negative about it. But when I looked at it, it's like I got more enjoyment out of Fire Emblem than I did Star Wars and Sayonara, Wild Hearts. But I'm a lot more hard on Fire Emblem because it should be in my top of all time. I mean, like Three Houses should be up there with the other ones, and it's just not. But bummer. Alrighty, Jeffrey.
Okay, my number 7. Super Mario Maker 2, baby! This potentially be higher, but I unfortunately didn't get as much time with the game as I would have liked. I I did the story mode, completely completed that, and obviously played some people's good many created levels, but didn't really do much as far as the making myself. Not that that's the main thing I like out of Mario Maker. That's not me. I like playing more than creating. But yeah, I didn't get so much time into this. I haven't even touched the Zelda, the Link levels yet, which I definitely want to. But in a lot of ways, is a step forward for from the original Mario Maker. They just added more stuff into it and just expanded what you can do with the levels. Even something as simple as adding slopes to this game changed what you could do drastically, and that's a lot of fun. Adding the 3D world aesthetic and adding stuff specific to that, like the Koopa car and the Cat Mario and all that, and making levels just around those makes them kind of like a whole different game in itself compared to the previous levels. And obviously, and from what I've seen, adding the Link costume definitely does that. I'm hoping they add more stuff like that. Like, let's say for the Super Mario World one, add a Super Metroid thing where like you can turn into Samus.
Be freaking sweet. Yeah.
Make levels based on that. Yeah, it's a really fun game. I don't know, not really much to say about it.
It's a bummer that it is objectively a better game than the first. Just objectively, like I struggle saying objectively, but I think it is objectively. It has everything that the first one had, basically, and more. But it sucks that it's going to be remembered worse or remembered less.
Why do you think that is? Like, why was the reception less favorable to Mario Maker 2?
I think it's partly the way Nintendo kind of potentially marketed and followed up with it, because when Mario Maker 1 came out, there were so many updates, and there were so many big updates throughout the whole thing that kept people interested. For Mario Maker 2, there may were a couple little things, but there was nothing like significant at all until the Link power up in December, which 6 months after the original release, and by then a lot of people kind of moved on from the game and were playing other things, especially at the time. I mean, just in our bubble, because people were trying to do Game of the Year, trying to get stuff in for the Game of the Year stuff. Even though that's a very arbitrary line, and we did that too. But yeah, so it's partly that, and I think it's just, I have no basis particularly for this. I think it's more of what I just said, but I think it might be because this is the second one. Mario Maker was a brand new thing, and it was crazy. Mario Maker 2 is kind of an old thing in the way of it's a better version of it. It has a lot more options and stuff, but Mario Maker already existed. And there were a couple other things that I think for the hardcore, I honestly I can't remember the top of my head, but I just remember people talking stuff that was missing as far as sharing options and just kind of
also
online options.
A whole other pillar of this is just Nintendo is terrible with online.
Yeah.
In almost every game they have, they're just their online infrastructure is a decade behind everyone else's.
Yeah, well, not even like just comparing Nintendo to Nintendo, because they in ways they're better now than they were then. I know it's not saying much, but but I think there's some stuff I can't remember off the top of my head specific to Mario Maker 2 that turned some people off.
Yeah, I've seen little things, but I don't think that would have been enough to make Mario Maker 2 as lowly, not talked about as it is now. I think it's just a perfect storm of everything he said. I mean, I think it's the time it came out. It was the fact that when Mario Maker came out, that was like a crazy concept. It's like, holy shit, we can make our own Mario levels. This is crazy. Whereas this one, just at the time it came out, it wasn't as big of a deal. And I think Nintendo did not market this well at all. I mean, this should have been an easy slam dunk, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when you see Mario Kart 8 selling as much as it did. And they didn't even do anything new with it. They just ported the old game to Switch, and you see that one selling like hotcakes. There's definitely something wrong when this one that did sell well before is just not now.
I think it's still selling well, but I don't know if it's meeting expectations. They're not talking about the sales, and I don't know if we'll get any updates for it, because I don't think it's breaking the top 10.
It was definitely less than I expected. Yeah. Like leading up, I think we all thought like, oh, this is obviously going to be one of the best-selling games for the Switch, and it's just not the case. But it does seem fun. I need to play it more. I need to play your copy.
All right, so my number 7 is Later Alligator. Do you guys know this game?
Oh, I saw you write about this. Yeah. I don't think I actually read it. I'm so sorry, and I meant to get to it, but What is Later Alligator?
So Later Alligator is a kind of point-and-click adventure game.
Yeah.
And when I say point-and-click, I use that very loosely. It's not like, you're trying to pixel hunt and find something. There's not really puzzles per se. The premise to this game is that, you are an investigator in Alligator, New York City.
Seems to be a theme.
Yeah, in Alligator, New York City. And you just kind of walk into a diner and you meet this alligator named Pat, who fears that his family is trying to murder him on the night of his birthday. So you're kind of trying to prevent a murder, and you're going around town and you're speaking to his relatives and kind of getting the lowdown on who they are, what is their relationship to Pat, and then what is going to happen tonight. Like literally, the three questions you can ask every character is like whom, Pat, and event, just like that.
That's cool.
It's a really cozy and like warm feeling game. It's very low
about
stakes.
A murder.
Yeah, about a murder. Well, a planned murder. And usually they'll ask you to complete a mini game for them, which can range from like 3-card Monty to like a slide puzzle, a very very freaking hard slide puzzle, to I don't know.
You lost Darby.
Yeah.
Like a parody of Flappy Bird. It's no, the game is really like a lot of fun, and the writing is super whimsical and charming. The soundtrack is also has this kind of like swing kind of feel to it, swing jazz feel, made by Too Mellow, who's a guy who's done music for other things. So it's my runner-up for favorite soundtrack, and then runner-up for favorite cast, because again, Pat is a bundle of anxiety, and I love him dearly. And then all the other family members you meet like a cousin called Sweet Geraldine, who's like a 11-year-old, and she wants you to get stuff out of like a claw machine, and she talks like a 1950s gangster. It's really great, and if you like animation too, the character animations are very well done and unique.
Is this a just PC game?
Just PC. You can run it on just about anything.
That's cool.
I really like this game a lot. Really fun and cozy.
Where did you hear about this game?
Just on the internet, and then I saw like a trailer for it, and I was like, I want to play this game.
That's cool.
I played a lot of like the Pajama Sam point and click games.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
When I was a kid. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Hell yeah, I do. I was more of a putt Freddy Frisch.
Yeah, man. If you like those type of games, you'll probably enjoy this. Like, it's not like for kids. I mean, a kid could play this and enjoy it, but it's more geared towards adults.
Yeah.
But if you like that kind of mellow, relaxing, low stakes kind of adventure game, definitely check this out.
Okay.
My number 2, and this was a very hard decision, and I could be talked out of it, but between 2 and 1. But my number 2 is Mortal Kombat 11. Man, this is a good game. That's a good ass game. I was like, I'm
good ass Tekken.
I'm not like a super big fighting game guy. Like, I like playing with y'all whenever we play things outside of Smash, obviously. Yeah. But I like playing with y'all. Like, I can get into Blaze Blue or just Tekken or anything we play just casually or whatever. Mortal Kombat's like the only fighting game that I play like on my own. I'll like go and play online sometimes and get absolutely destroyed. I mean, I'm not good, but it's Mortal Kombat is the only one I've really gotten into, and 10 was the biggest one for that. Like whenever we were freshman year in the dorm, that was so much fun just playing that every day. And looking at 11, it just kind of seemed like it was building off of everything that 10 did, but just like improving things in a lot of ways. And that's exactly what we ended up getting. There's like obviously a lot of things are similar, but there are like mechanics, and one of them, Fatal Blows, which I have as my runner-up for favorite mechanic, I think was such a cool, kind of simplified but in a good way of doing the X-ray moves, because the way the Fatal Blow moves is like you can't use it until you're at the like bottom, like the last bar of your life. Like you have this like, it's like less than a quarter of your life. You have to be like almost dead and then you can use it. So it's kind of can be a last ditch thing, but you only can use it once per the entire fight. So like in the 3-round fight or whatever, you can only use it once. So it's a lot more simplified. Like, you're not just busting out X-rays all the time like you could in the last one when you build up the meter. So it takes away like kind of the BS thing with that. But it's also, I'm glad it's still there because it becomes kind of a strategic cat and mouse thing. You're trying to get them to use their fatal blow, so that like they don't have it anymore.
Gotta blow your blow.
Blow your blow. And I mean, it gets to the point like if you're desperate, like you have to like look at their health and look at your health and like, are they low enough to where if I use this fatal blow, I can turn this fight around and win? And you can do that and you win the fight and that's good, but then now they have a fatal blow and you don't. So now it's like there's a risk reward factor that I think just works so well. Like I absolutely love that mechanic, and I love the strategy. It's strategy, but it's pretty easy to wrap your head around strategy when it comes to that. And like but outside of that, I think every character in this game, even the ones that I'm not into, like not my personal style, they are all fun to play. Like I like playing all of them, which I can't necessarily say about previous Mortal Kombat games. And I also think just in general, in previous Mortal Kombat games, I've had to do a lot more of like memorizing things, and you definitely have to do that now. But in Mortal Kombat 11, it just makes a lot more sense to string things together. There's combos that I discovered just by doing things, where it's like, okay, this button swings up, this one swings down, and this one goes straight. So let me go boom, boom, boom. Oh shit, that was a combo.
Right.
It was just way more intuitive than I think any fighting game has ever been before. And I don't know, I just really, really liked it. And obviously visually it has the very realistic look that 10 did, and you might not realize how much of an advancement it is, but if you go back and play 10 like I did, it's a pretty big jump.
Yep.
Is it your favorite Mortal Kombat?
Oh yeah, definitively. I think definitively this is one there's a chance that I like this one more than whatever comes next, because I really, really do like this one a lot.
How do you feel about the story? Because you seem disappointed in that.
Yeah, I am not wild about the story, and this is just something with me. I'm not wild about like really any of the NetherRealm stories. Like I didn't really like the previous Mortal Kombat stories. I didn't really like either of the Injustice stories. Like I've seen a lot of people like say that it's like, fighting game stories are never really that good. And I see people saying like, but these really are. Like these are like transcend fighting game stories. I don't think they do. I think that they're good. They're like probably one of the better fighting game stories, maybe. But
it's a low bar.
But I don't even know if I would go that far, because I think Mortal Kombat takes itself too seriously in a weird way. Like, this story mode should be like Mortal Kombat the movie. Campy bullshit all over the place. It's like absolute campy bullshit. And it kind of does that like a quarter of the time. But the other 3/4 of the time, it's actually trying to be a real drama, and it's a really bad one.
Right.
That's what I'm in a different wavelength with other people, because like, yes, it has the corny, campy moments, but they're kind of too few and far between like the actual, like they're trying to do drama, and the voice acting, especially Ronda Rousey, Jesus Christ, was fucking terrible.
That was a mistake.
Yeah,
a big mistake. And I don't know, the story is just boring to me. It's just like, it's not that fun.
That's bad. Yeah, that's bad. If it's a Mortal Kombat story, it's boring.
And a lot of people feel differently than me, but like I've tried many NetherRealm stories and I've never really cared for any of them. Injustice is probably the best ones, because it's using these DC characters that are already established, so it works better than the Mortal Kombat ones do for sure. But yeah, I didn't care for that, but that doesn't really detract, because as opposed to, I know a lot of people play Mortal Kombat, legitimately get Mortal Kombat for the story when they're not fighting game people or whatever. I'm not a fighting game person, but I'm not getting this for the story. The story did not move the needle for me either way. It didn't even need to have a story. Like, that's not what I'm playing it for. So it didn't matter that much. And I think the customizing stuff is also super cool in this game. You can customize like every fighter to look like they don't just have their static thing. You can make them look like different things. They need to unlock those things a lot faster, though. It definitely is a grind to get that, and it's all like random. You can't pick a thing and buy it, which is a bummer.
To get people to spend more money.
You ready for the Joker?
Yeah,
Mr. J.
And yeah, the DLC fighters have been super good too. Yeah. It's a bummer that we didn't get to play more of that as a group. Like, we should definitely play that.
I think Joker comes out this week, so
nice.
St. David's Ballot, I believe. Okay.
It should have been switched.
What?
Put Byleth in Mortal Kombat and Joker in Smash.
Yeah, obviously. Joker's already in Smash.
Oh, God damn it.
Got him. My number.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go, so I'm gonna go ahead and do my number one.
All right.
And then I'm gonna leave for y'all to do this. I'm so sorry. It was all out of order. So let me take a good swig of water.
No swig. No sweetie swag.
And we talk about the most intense, gritty game of the year.
Oh boy.
I'm talking,
Bubsy?
of course, about Bubsy's 3D World. No, I'm talking about Baba Is You.
Baba is hardcore.
Honestly, a very, very big surprise that this is my game of the year. And it's not really just because it's a weak year. This game is legitimately phenomenal. And I am not a puzzle game guy, which this is like kind of one of the most hardcore puzzle games, like just difficulty-wise there is that I've played. But I don't know. Like, and a big part of this was playing this with my sister. And this is also my favorite gaming moment. I can't really think of a specific one, but I'm just kind of putting all the different, like my favorite gaming moment is whatever the newest Baba Is You level that me and my sister beat. Because every time we figure it out, we just have this like, we're like high-fiving. We're like, we freaking did it.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding. And I've talked about this. I mean, the way they just do these puzzle mechanics of how you're pushing these words together to like change the environment. You know, you have like Baba Is You, flag is win, and you can do like Baba is win, and then you win. Or you can do Baba is flag, and flag is win, so you win. And the way it builds on itself, it like starts off really weird, and you have to like kind of learn to speak the language of this game. And then like you'll go to a new section, and they add another thing, and then they add another thing. And that whole process of us clicking into a new level and then seeing some new word and we're like, what the fuck does this mean?
What does that mean?
And then trying to figure it out. And like usually that process is me messing around with things, not knowing what the hell I'm doing until I accidentally stumble upon something that my sister sees and she's like, wait a minute, go back, do that again. And then she figures it out. But I don't know. This is such a smart puzzle game. It's so simple, but the people who made this are legitimate geniuses. Just some of the later levels get to be absurd.
Yeah.
You are legitimately like breaking the game because you
galaxy brain like answers. It gets pretty wild. It's
pretty unbelievable. Some of the things that like I don't know how, like you finish something and you're like, how did they think of this? And it's like coding the game. There's a lot of like, you know, it's all about like the language and how like things relate to each other. And I think it is a perfect game to play with a significant other or a family member. And so like my sister or something to play with a partner, because like you almost need to.
You need multiple people. If you're not like if you're not part of Mensa, like you need some more people in the room. Much.
And sometimes like I'll see something that she doesn't because she's thinking too hard about it, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is it just this? And it's like, no, that's too simple. It can never be that. Then we try it, and it's like, hey, I got one. Yeah, I did it.
Let's realize I think it's the one game all three of us have played to some extent.
I think so.
Nice.
I kind of love when you get game overs in Baba Is You because like the music just cuts out and it's like very dire. And it's like, uh-oh, Baba has ceased to exist.
Yep.
And you gotta back that up.
Yeah, like I actually love the sound design of this game.
It's great.
It's so simple, but it like really works. And that music is like just like it's kind of like just lo-fi enough to where like it's kind of like puts you in the zen state, but like you don't really notice it, but it's just kind of there. And I honestly love the art style of this game too.
I do too.
Like a lot of people would laugh and be like, "You let the art." This like I almost put this as like this. I might have actually done it. Like or this is definitely one of my runner-ups for best art style, which is funny because it's straight up MS Paint, but it works.
It
really works with the style of this game.
Interesting.
Yeah. And like this game has humor in a way. Like
it does.
Obviously, it's not like jokes, but like they have like there's definitely within the mechanics of the thing like very funny things can happen.
It made Joker fans laugh.
Don't think this is a game for the Joker fans.
It's like, oops, I turned all the rocks into Baba, and like it's like funny moments like that.
Or like you are everything.
Yeah.
And then you're like moving the whole screen. It's man, what a game. That game's so good. All right. I got to go, but enjoy Jeff and Jacob. They're the real stars. Peace. Gentlemen, whenever you're done, just go to Audacity, hit that stop button right there, and go to OBS and hit that stop recording button right there. and I'll be back. Bye.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Yeah. He'll probably be back by the time we're done. Maybe.
Just delete the video. Perhaps.
Okay. My number 6 game, Outer Worlds. Brr, 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 brr. Yeah, it's also my runner-up for story, as well as a runner-up for favorite character, which is Ellie, one of the companions, as well as has my favorite character in Pravati.
Okay.
That was where that bit was leading to with Byleth, Jump Force, MC, and whatever.
Okay.
Pravati as the best character.
So I take it that this is your first Fallout type game.
Yes. Which is one of those things when talking about it, I kind of wish we had more people, like more opinions on it, because it's kind of a thing of that man where
Speak of the devil.
Part of the reason he jumped off of it because he had played this style of games many times before, and it is a game that I have little to no experience in. Really had a good time with it. But at the same time, with a couple of the games Darby has problems with, he's kind of the minority with the opinion. And there are a bunch of people that played, Fallout and all that kind of stuff that really love this game. But reason I really like it is the characters are really well written. Honestly, again, I haven't seen too much of Fallout, but I don't know. My opinion, some of the stuff I've seen here is better written than some of the Fallout stuff I've seen. But again, my experience with that is very minimal. But the story overall is pretty simple, but it's a really fun one. It's a simple thing of, you were in a ship coming from Earth, and you and your whole colony were kind of frozen. Yeah. And then you're woken up by some old dude, and he's like, yo, go do this stuff. And you're like, okay. Or he wants to meet up with some guy. You go, you crush the guy you're supposed to meet. So you kind of take their identity.
Okay, that's fun.
And you take their ship and all that. And I kind of like it. You can play, you can kind of, as you're going through the game, you can keep on introducing yourself as that captain, or you can be like, fuck you, I'm me.
Right.
I'm the captain of this ship now, fuck you. And you kind of do stuff with the story of where, just kind of throughout, you can kind of be the nice guy, which is normally what I do in these games, kind of do more of, this is what I would do, which, normally the nice guy things. Or you can be a complete asshole, and I can see how, and it can change things. And there are a couple things where the story definitely changes. Like, there's one of the first big thing, and the big choice, I guess, that kind of influences some stuff in the story, which I think is part of the reason Darby kind of fell off of it. Darby and I did completely different things.
Oh, okay.
I got what would be considered the best option, the most interesting option. He got what was considered a boring option, and he hated it, if I remember correctly.
So it changed it that much, this decision.
Yeah. So there's stuff like that. Like I said, the companions are really fun. There are a couple of them I didn't use. One of them is just a fancy cleaning robot, so I didn't really use him that much.
Yeah, not much character.
I guess something else, like with companions, with conversations, they add something to it. Like, the person you're talking to will talk to the companion thing. The companion things will throw some extra information in or give their opinion based on, like, one's a doctor, one's an engineer. Or Pravati's the engineer and Ellie's the doctor. So they would throw in some stuff. Yeah. Or with their background, they'll throw stuff in.
Hey, I'm a professional in this field. I can do this for you.
Or if you're on a planet where they have a lot of history with, they'll throw in some extra information in there and talk to whoever you're talking to, which is nice. So, I mainly focused on people like, I like your personality, and kind of pick my companions based on where I was at. And reason I like Ellie, she's kind of a no nonsense type thing. She's kind of like, she's a doctor, but she's also kind of the more rebellious of the group. She's kind of like, she just happened to study to be a doctor, but she's kind of the more, hey, I'm going to go around kind of be a pirate and make money or whatever. I'm kind of just, I technically owe you a debt, so that's why I'm here.
Free spirit type.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I just really enjoy her character. I like Pravati. She's the one that kind of makes the least amount of sense to be in your group, because she's kind of a well-natured engineer. And there are admittedly some times where you're doing stuff that's like, Pravati, you probably shouldn't be here. But you're here, and I love your character set. And each of the companions have their own kind of little series of side quests or one big side quest that they do.
Yeah.
I like Parvati's in particular because it's kind of more simple in nature. It's her pretty much liking an engineer you meet and how she can try to woo her in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also Parvati is also like asexual, so
Okay.
or that kind of comes out where they really hint out. So there's like, how do you deal with that, and like how she was worried about telling what ended up being her significant other,
Right.
that kind of stuff. So stuff like that is why Parvati was my favorite character this year. And then honestly, for a lot of this year, as much as great Parvati is, that was a big, heavy character-driven year for me. We'll get more into that down my list. But it's a really fun game. The combat is actually pretty solid in my opinion, but I am also someone who is not as experienced with first-person shooters.
Right.
So I said this when I first talked about it, is take my opinion of that with a grain of salt, but I'm far from the only one with that opinion as far as having solid gunplay.
Yeah, I feel like when you look at the other Fallout, the recent first-person Fallout games, it's kind of a low bar. There's not, they aren't like really fantastic shooters, and so it's easy to kind of, well, I say easy, but it does not surprise me that this feels really good in comparison to those games.
Yes.
I think with Outer Worlds, I guess a lot of people were expecting maybe like a little more from Obsidian.
So I think also just part of it is, and this is a person basis, but I think people expected more of a game because this game I finished and did most of the side quests in less than 30 hours.
Yeah.
When Fallout games are long. And I kind of like that about it because it's kind of
like
this big thing with a scope or whatever, but it's done in a reasonable amount of time. And you can argue sometimes, characters, you could have done more stuff with the characters, and I agree. But I think they did really good, especially since this isn't the biggest budget game. They're now with Microsoft, so Outer Worlds 2 will probably be huge, but this game wasn't exactly a AAA endeavor.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Obsidian does next.
Yeah, Outer Worlds did good enough to where there's no way they're not going to make a sequel.
Yeah. Anything more to add with Outer
really
Worlds? One last thing about Later Alligator, my number 7, is that it has a glorious Yakuza reference.
Nice.
So that's a check in my book. My number 6 is Control, which we kind of talked about at the beginning since Darby's playing it. It's a game that I feel ultimately very conflicted about. Mm-hmm. I really like the world. It has my favorite art style. I think the design of everything from the oldest house to the characters to just about everything in that game is striking, and I would purchase an art book of that game in a heartbeat. And it has a runner-up for my favorite setting, which is the Federal Bureau of Control. Mm-hmm. I really love that paranormal kind of, the universe is way more complicated and strange than we could ever imagine. I really like that idea. And I love reading and poring over every file, every, audio tape, which is actually, there's not too many audio tapes in that game. It's mostly files and these little presentations that the scientists do. And the story itself is surprisingly minimal, but I think the arc that Jesse goes on is satisfying in its own way.
It's kind of the thing of where, this is the first time I've heard that, or Dari's heard it. That's why I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. I'm glad he's liking it. Dari's liking it as much as he is, because part of the reason he was interested in it originally was kind of, he thought the story would be cool, but in fact the combat was more minimal, but then it turned out that is the opposite.
Yeah.
But it seems like, the vibe and everything enough there, and the little side stuff with the notes and all that are enough to make up for that, at least somewhat. Yeah,
for me, what really sold me on, what I really love about Control is just kind of vibing with the world and taking in that atmosphere and kind of puzzling, just thinking about and pondering like these ideas that it posits. And then kind of the way that it, because this is the Federal Bureau of Control, it's a government office building, and so you kind of get this really banal office kind of look to it, this setting, and then it kind of mixes that with the horror of the paranatural, and so you have like an office that's covered in sticky notes because some force decided to duplicate this man's sticky note and have it spread across his entire office. So it's things like that I really adore. Like I said before, the gameplay, it really dragged for me. I think by the time that you get all the abilities, it just kind of bottoms out and just becomes too, wave after wave upon enemies, and like your strategy is not really switching it up too much. And then also the fact that, there's not like a weapon wheel. You have to go into the menu and swap out between the different modes for the gun. I could go on about the problems with the gameplay. The bosses were really lackluster. But again, the world itself was incredibly fascinating for me.
That's good.
So what's your number 5, Jeff?
AI, the Somnium Files.
All right.
Can't remember. You been on here when I talked about this game?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. This also is my favorite story of the year and runner-up for my favorite cast.
All right.
As far as the cast goes, as a cast, it is very strong, and why none of the cast made my favorite character list is I feel like any one of the individual characters is necessarily too strong. As like stand up on their own, they're just kind of like the cast bounces off of each other. Really
Gotcha.
Well. So that's
that makes sense.
that. And as far as the story goes, that is as much as I really enjoyed the story, and it is a visual novel-like game, so it is the story. So it being high and winning my favorite story is not the craziest thing, but I really like the way it laid out the story because it's the Virtue's Last Reward games and all that kind of stuff. It's made by that guy, the mastermind behind that. So like those games, it has branching path stuff going on, and you can go back anytime to any part of the story to try to go in the different branching paths and all that. And there are multiple endings that you get to that usually focus on one particular character. Like you get the end, it's one of the characters' name is Iris, the Iris ending and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's like one true ending that before you can finish that, you need to finish all the other endings before you can move on in that. Normally because there's a piece of information you learn and the different routes that make everything in the true ending make sense. Something that it is explained. Let's see what else. And
I was just gonna say. So, I mean, do you know how many endings there are in total?
Probably 5.
Probably 5. So,
or it's either 4 or 5 main endings and the one joke ending.
Okay. So I was gonna ask. Is this when a lot of games they have the illusion of choice and diversion, and in a lot of games, like depending on the choices that you make, that change can be very minimal, and everyone kind of arrives at the same finale. Mm-hmm. Is this more of like, the points in between from A to Z, those change dramatically, and Z and A are the same, or does...
So the way this choice is made, I think it's really cool. As far as the choices you make that diverge the path, some of them are kind of more than others, or actually a lot of them is... They usually diverge in the somnium, which is you go into people's dream to figure out the mystery or whatever.
Right.
And there's something in there. The first choice, like is the first mission that does the first little diversion, is literally you pick an option on the right or left. You have no idea what they mean. You just go on that story.
Okay.
And the choices are kind of like that, but they lead to something that, and then once you get. They lead to something that makes the path diverge, and once you get the full picture, you kind of see what happened to make things different, to why this ending happened this way and all that kind of stuff, and it kind of wrap up and makes sense of why maybe this character didn't live in this part or died in this part and that kind of stuff. So I think you back? That was quick. We just made it to number 5.
Yeah.
It's AI, by the way.
And my number 6 was Control. So.
Good. Yeah. So I think AI does a really good job of that. It's a simple way to do it. It's not too Virtue's Last Reward in that series. All thing with the craziness of that, but it is simple and it was a really fun story to fun cast of characters. I brought this up a lot. My main complaint as far as the story thing, and which will instantly turn off people, and I get it, is the main character's perviness. It's brought up a little, maybe one time too many.
Right.
And they played as just general perviness. For example, there's like the AI Iba tells the main character, "Yo, throw that porn magazine over there," and he's like, "Okay, do it." And then your enemies will kind of look at it and get distracted. Kind of dumb things like that, but they're small enough things for me personally. It doesn't really bother it that much, but I get why some people it would. But I don't know. I really enjoyed the story. The mystery was fun, and as far as I can tell, as far as the branching path goes, there was not really any glaring plot holes. You're like, okay, that doesn't really make sense. Some of the stuff is like just really anime, and it's just the way the world works and stuff. Like, example, a 12-year-old girl has the strength of a Superman,
Right.
superhuman. But
Of course,
it's just kind of a thing. They kind of happens. You're like, I'll roll with this.
Yeah, I've heard the writing in this game is really well done.
Yeah, I think it's really good, and this one was. There's no question about it being my favorite story of the year.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, cast got runner up.
For what?
The cast for AI got runner up.
I thought Cats got a runner up. Cats is my favorite game of the year.
Yes, runner up. Yeah. So I don't know. I really enjoy this game. I recommend it if you can put up with some of the dumb anime tropes like Master Roshi and Dragon Ball. You can put up with that kind of stuff. You'll probably be fine here.
Yeah. Or at the very least, if you're like, it is what it is.
Yep. It's small enough to where it doesn't overall detract the game for me.
My number 5 is Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition.
Nice.
That is a remaster of Age of Empires 2, which I think came out back in like 1998. It's an old school real-time strategy game that was incredibly important for me growing up as a kid. I played a lot of this game and other similar type strategy games. And, I don't know if I was ever really any good at these games.
Yeah.
But it did interest me a lot in history.
Speaking of a strategy game, I need to get into.
Yeah. And I think this game is, there's plenty of RTSs to choose from. I like Age of Empires 2 a lot. I think it's very understandable, and I think the UI and the way progress works in that game is very understandable.
Yeah.
Especially with its historical setting and how you're progressing through these like technological eras, and so that kind of contextualizes how now I can upgrade things, and now I want to move on and get this other upgrade. And I think this definitive edition, it adds in some more civilizations. It kind of changes around some of the UI, some of the map settings in a good way. I know it overhauls the multiplayer in a really great way, and it also just looks fantastic. It's a very gorgeous game.
Yeah. That revised art style. Every time I see it, I'm like, there's so much going on the screen, but it all like works. Seems like it would be too busy, but it works really well.
Yeah, it's a very pretty game, and that
it almost looks like one of those like models people make, like a toy model thing, but in a good way. Yeah, like a diorama model thing, but in a good way. Not like it looks like cheap or fake or anything. It looks good.
Yeah, it has like this kind of painterly look to it, and I really like the sprites from like the original game, and so I think they kind of redid those in a very nice way to where it still evokes the original style of the game. But it's just a classic RTS that I personally really love, and this is a great HD remaster of it, so that's good for me.
Heck yeah. I think it's on Game Pass. Am I right, Jeff?
It's a Microsoft game, so yes.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And I need to play that.
Yeah, and it comes with all the stuff from the 2013 remaster that came out. So if you kind of want to get into Age of Empires 2, there's no reason to pick this up. There's no reason you should go for like the 2013 remaster over this one, because this one has all the stuff from that plus more.
Sweet.
Yeah, so Darius, so any Age of Empire thing that comes out from now on, it's on Game Pass.
Yep. Yeah, that would be a good game for me to just play on PC just here and there. Like, I don't need to.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine it's not. So, I mean, I guess you could like forget how to play it as well. But I imagine it's something you can kind of pick up and put down. Yeah.
My number 4, The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Ooh, baby.
I was gonna say, speaking of remakes,
and diorama-looking games. This, no question, favorite art style for me. And it's a runner-up.
Me too. I didn't even play the damn game. Me too.
And it's one of my runner-up for setting. Just the Jolly Island setting, very, very nice, very fun. So yeah, this is a remake of a very old game.
Yeah.
Game Boy game.
That you had not played? right?
I have not played this
Yeah.
game. This is my first introduction to Link's Awakening. And yeah, 2D Zeldas, I love 2D Zelda and 3D Zelda. I prefer 3D Zelda as a whole, but I do love me a good 2D Zelda, and this is a good one.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people had obviously some problems with the art style to begin with. Some people still do, but I feel like the art style really adds a lot to this game and just the vibe of the game. I think it helps make, actually seeing what some of the enemies were from the original game, what they look like. I think it helps them transition to a more modern game a lot more.
Yeah.
As far as visually, and it just looks really nice, and it looks so good. This and the next game I have is probably two of the best looking games on Switch. But as far as the gameplay goes, it is pretty much a one-to-one thing as from the original game, with a couple little tweaks, like you can map some actions to some buttons, so you don't have to continually switch stuff as much. Like there's one of the items you get is Rock's Feather, which allows you to jump.
Okay.
So there was always a thing that you needed to switch from that to any other item to do anything else. But you can do more than just the one now, so you can always have the jump button there now, and as well as something else. Which I'm okay with switching from like a grappling hook to a boomerang or whatever the hell, or a wand or whatever. Just having the map from the go to a menu to take off the jump button to anything else would be a drag. So I'm glad they at least added that in. But this is a remake in every sense of the word, as far as just completely remaking the game.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because obviously the Game Boy is a very limited console, and so they had to make a lot of compromises with the original game. Do you feel like they made necessary improvements, or could they have done more with this remake?
Unless you're doing like a Final Fantasy 7 or RE2 style remake, I will probably hold the opinion as you can always probably do more. But I feel like this, in my opinion anyway, as someone who has not played the original game, I think they did a really good job with it, because it still captures, I think, the vibe and magic of the original game, but obviously updated it as far as visually and all that. And honestly, as far as 2D Zelda or top-down Zeldas, whatever you want to call them, go, just kind of the more simple style is to my liking.
Right.
Because especially as, with Breath of the Wild, they're going crazy with that. So having a more simple, to-the-point Zelda game. And even this one's kind of open world-ish. You're kind of traveling around the world and going to different temples and all that kind of stuff.
Pretty cool. Do you think the $60 price point, because I know that was a little bit of a controversy, do you think... I mean, obviously, Nintendo's not going to put out a Legend of Zelda game not for $60, but
yeah.
Do you think like it was, worth full price, or?
In my opinion, yes, because it's a long enough game to. Even though length isn't anything, but it's a fully realized game. It's a full game. It's like if they did Sayonara Royal Heart, for instance, for $60, that'd be
yeah. As much as I like it, like no.
Yeah. As far as comparing to length, but this is a fully realized game. It looks gorgeous and all that. I know people have problems with it being a one-to-one remake of a Game Boy game and charging for $60. I think the more crazier examples for that kind of thing, I think it's probably justified, but the Mystery Dungeon thing, the Mystery Dungeon remake is coming out in March, stands out more to me. Right. Even that, I'm like, okay, it's kind of the same deal, but this is obviously a much bigger deal.
It kind of seems like it's something that, more or less, what this is. Because, I was going to say, it's not like RE2 Remake where, and I'm not even saying it's better or worse, but it's not like RE2 Remake where, this is a complete another remake or whatever, and it makes total sense why, no one's arguing that it shouldn't be $60 or anything like that. Link's Awakening, this is the old game. But modernized, it looks better and there's better mechanics or whatever. But it is a straight we're picking up the old game and putting it there. So it's is that worth $60 to you or is it not? Yeah. I think it's gonna be different for different people. But I think it's something it's not something you have to wait and see. What this game is, and it's
Yeah. I guess one of the things up to a consumer thing. I know people would be more upset about this than other things in general because it is a Nintendo game, so it's probably not going to go down in price. Other than some,
but I do think if this was in the hands of other publishers, it probably would not be $60. Which again, I'm not saying that's whatever. But Nintendo,
I think again, I think it's worth $60 to me personally, but I can get the argument because you look at a very similar style of remake, the Crash and Spyro ones. Those are remakes of 3 games that aren't as old. Those are $40. Yeah.
Yep.
I think. Yeah. I'm not wrong with that, right? No.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. You can also throw Ratchet and Clank, which I know is $40.
Yeah, I was about to say that too. Like, pricing in video games is a whole other conversation, but it does not always line up. Like, Ratchet and Clank was a phenomenal fully length game that was $40, and then there's other things that are $60.
Yeah, and Link's Awakening obviously sells. So from this is my business degree talking. If Nintendo can get those sales when it's $60, why are they put it at $40?
Right.
Oh yeah, they're gonna keep doing it. Just like the same way they're charging for Tokyo Mirage Session $60. They're still like some of those 2D Mario games are still full price. I mean, it's just always.
I'm gonna throw this out there for you guys, and for you too, and let me know you think this would be a fun idea. Because especially now that this is done, I don't have too many Zelda games I have not played. Should I finish them and do a ranking?
Sure, yeah.
Pretty cool.
A little series.
Is it like the old, long, really hard to get through ones that you haven't beat?
Mainly like 1 and 2. I might have completed one when I was really young, but I would go back and try that because I have easy access to most of them at this point. The only one that'd be difficult that I haven't played is Skyward Sword.
Yeah, that'd be a little hard, but
I don't know. I might do that.
Jeff busting out a Wii for the podcast.
Hell yeah! I can do my Wii U, at least.
Nope, you gotta play Wii.
Okay. Yeah.
What's that? What's the Wii U?
Something that I bought. Some other people did it. Something.
It's something.
I don't regret it.
So my number 4 is Death Stranding.
I figured this was what you were talking about.
Yes. I personally really like this game. I know it's controversial. I think its faults are glaring and extremely obvious.
This is a game I really want to try out for myself.
You can borrow my copy.
No. It's not that. Well, it's a time thing.
Right.
It's a time thing because it was longer than I expected it to be, and that's the thing. But I guess there's too many games.
Yeah, I mean, my playtime was about 55 hours, and then I did some more stuff in the post game. But I think the mechanics of this game is not going to speak to everybody, but I personally really enjoyed the hiking simulator like quality to it. I call it my favorite gameplay mechanics of 2019.
Nice.
The way that it's an open world game where the focus is on walking and traversing this terrain and this very aesthetically beautiful kind of bleak looking environment, and where like the moment to moment gameplay is not there's an enemy over there, I gotta watch out for that sentry. It's I gotta walk around these rocks. Right. And I think that was really, engaging. Red Dead Redemption 2 was the other kind of truly massive open world game I played this year. And I would describe Red Dead Redemption 2 as an impressive game, but maybe not always entertaining I found. I wouldn't call Death Stranding as always entertaining, but I always felt like it was satisfying in a way. There's like a Civilization type, like one more turn, like Civilization, the strategy game series, like one more turn type feeling. It's like, just one more delivery, like one more stop on the way, and just kind of like loading up Sam with like a ton of packages and kind of making that trek was, like kind of meditative and zen-like in a way. And then when things go wrong, it's just like, oh my God, like what am I going to do? Like, crap, I just dropped all these packages down this ravine and now I got to go and get that. But like in an enjoyable way, which is not an experience that's going to speak to everybody. And I don't fault anybody for not liking Death Stranding. Right. It has, I also really like the soundtrack to it, both the original soundtrack, but obviously at the moments that stick out to me the most are where they use the music from the band Low Roar. So kind of like traversing up those like beautiful snowy mountains and then having this like really somber sounding like Low Roar track come over. And it's like, oh man, this is so beautiful and captivating. But because it is licensed music, I didn't really want to count that as like my favorite soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. But
and the gameplay loop in Death Stranding I found to be very rewarding, where you start out, it's just you and all of your packages on your back, and then you kind of progress to getting a motorbike, to getting a package carrier that you can tether to you, to building like a highway building a highway and a fleet of trucks, and then like just loading that up with like kilos upon kilos of like metal and just dropping that off is so satisfying. Building a road and connecting like two major hubs in that game is one of my favorite gaming moments of the year.
That's awesome.
Just that feeling of just like, yeah, man, like it's and it's interesting too because you can, I think you can read a lot in the Death Stranding. There's a lot of themes about Death Stranding that they just love to hit you over the head with. It's like I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I get it because you have actor friends.
But there's also, I think, there's like sub layers to it that I think aren't as pronounced, or that maybe kind of get lost because you're like, I get the metaphor you're going for here. Right. But I think there's like an interesting kind of narrative about how in America, in the beginning of the game, you're kind of traversing through these like wild environments, and then like by the end, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna zip line from here to there in like 2 seconds. But you do miss like that kind of beauty of like the natural world around you, which I think can kind of speak to, I don't know, like the building of highways across America and how a lot of places get lost because of the highway system,
civilization, and just expansion.
Yeah.
What did you think about the social part of the game? The network. I know there's like the like system, and you can like get some things that other people had built, and vice versa.
I found it to be incredibly fascinating. I think it's an amazing idea. I don't know how it's going to play out in the long run. I don't.
Yeah, I worry about eras of Death Stranding, like in 6 years from now. How does that work exactly?
But I'm really okay with that. I don't think this game needs to, it can be kind of like this like weird experience that lasted for like half a year, and then like, I don't know. I don't think it needs to have like this longevity to it for it to be like a fascinating experience. Mm-hmm. But I think, there's a lot of great moments where it's like, oh snap, like I need to get this material, or I need to get some sort of supply, like maybe like a new pair of boots because I was an idiot and I didn't pack a new pair of boots. And so you run over to like a mailbox somebody left, and you're like, oh, good thing, like someone left a pair of boots in there. Thank you so much. Or there's a great moment early on where you're delivering to like this wind farm, and you go through one of the very few wooded areas in the game, and it's hell going through there. Like there's rocks, there's trees, and there's BTs, which are the ghosts, and it's like, oh my, it's like, how am I gonna get back up here? And so you bring that area onto the network. Pretty much the goal of this game is that you are a FedEx delivery man reconnecting America with like 5G network. You're like laying down Google Fiber, and so you're bringing people onto this infrastructure network. And then when you connect an area of the map to this network, that also brings in structures and things other players have left behind in the area. And so that moment when you connect that farm, you turn around to the nightmare you just went down, and you just see bridges just going straight up the mountainside, and you're like, oh, this is beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But there's also times where it's like, man, there's just so much crap everywhere. I just want to get off the grid and go experience like the solemn, the quiet of like nature. So it's a really cool experience.
Everything about Death Stranding sounds fascinating to me, and it's very unique and interesting, and there's just a lot of very cool things that it's doing. I just like, I wish that it wasn't this way, and who knows, maybe I would enjoy it, but just listening to the moment-to-moment gameplay, I cannot imagine me having fun with this. Just the actual gameplay itself and everything. Just I feel like I would bail on this game. I mean, I feel like I know myself enough to know that I would not. Almost in a way that I didn't get into Stardew Valley and stuff like that. Like I just don't think that my attention span would last. I mean, sadly, and just I don't know. But also there are a lot of other games that don't sound fun but ends up being fun. But I definitely understand where where that's coming from. I'd be interested to see like Jeff play it, and Jeff so rarely doesn't like games. I'd be interested to see.
It's true.
What happens with it?
I'm easily pleased. That's what he says.
But yeah, like just real quick, I guess like the movement of your main character is really cool too, because there's the whole people describe it as QWOP, and I don't really see that comparison. I think it's being a little hyperbolic.
But yeah, I would.
But
really on the internet?
Yeah, but you get prompts where like, oh, you got to shift your way or start tipping over, but like you can actually like those prompts aren't like, it's not like QTE. You can, if you're watching his character, you can anticipate that and like correct yourself before it's like hold the left trigger to steady so you don't fall over. You can, if you're paying attention, you can actually prevent that from happening. And then like kind of the strategy of like, oh, I want to go down this hillside, and so I'm going to do like these kind of zigzag lines down the hill. things that you don't really think about in most games. Where you're just like, I'm just going to walk up this hill, or I'm just going to run here. I like that making the environment, the gameplay, and traversing the environment is the focus of the game. I love it a lot.
Yeah, awesome.
My number 3, Luigi's Mansion 3, baby.
Cool. That's really high.
3 is 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured from the way Jeff talked about this game that Jeff really loves this game.
Yes.
Let's hear why he really loves this game.
Yeah, but as I mentioned before, biggest surprise. It's also a runner-up for setting with that ghost hotel. It's a very nice setting, very fun, spooky setting. And art style might be the right word, but it's a runner-up for that as well. Just it's more of like the art's really good and stuff. It's more like the animation, what they do with Luigi, and for that reason, with the animation and just what they do with Luigi, is why I kind of put Luigi as a runner-up in characters. Just the expressions, amazing ways he reacts and thing. It's really well done, and why I would put a Luigi's Mansion 3 and Link's Awakening up there for like best looking Switch games. Just I don't know what they really do with this. The way this game looks and the animation and stuff is really crazy.
And the interactability with like all the objects in the room.
Yes, yeah. And that's really good for like for example, there's one room and they showed it in trailers, so I'm okay with saying it. You get kind of an Egyptian like tomb floor where it's pretty much a bunch of sand with a pyramid where the like a Cleopatra type ghost is, but you can suck up and blow all of the sand around the whole place, and the way and there's some puzzles and stuff where you got to use the physics of your vacuum thing and sand to make it like a little platform for yourself because something's too high, so you got to blow the sand to make it so you can climb up it. And there's a lot of stuff like that you can do with the environment. And what's really nice about this game, it has some like puzzles and stuff to where none of it's really hard, but they're good enough to where you get that eureka moment, because everything you pretty much get all your tools pretty early on. As far as the last thing I think you really get that's really a real tool is Gooigi, which you got to use.
Gooigi is such a tool.
Yeah.
Gooigi the tool.
Yep. But what you got to use is figure out how your tools that you have they got early on the game work on this floor with the gimmicks of these floors, the different stuff. And what they do with that stuff is really well done. It kind of keeps you wondering and excited to see what the next floor is going to be when they're out 15 floors and they're all pretty different. It starts out pretty basic with like, oh, these are hotel stuff like the lobby. There's a mall area.
Spooky mansion.
Yeah. And then it quickly gets to create stuff like the pyramid thing and trying to remember what else, the dance party and all that kind of stuff.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. No, it's a really fun game. I honestly think like you and Celeste might have a good time because you can. Why don't you be Luigi? Why don't you be Gooigi?
She's gonna be Gooigi.
You're not playing that tool.
I'm not playing that big tool.
Yeah. So.
I just love that. Like when this game came out, I felt like the reception was like, oh yeah, this is a good game. And then as the weeks went on, it's like, no, this is a really good game. And then like by the end of the year, it's like, no, guys, this is like you need to play this game.
Yeah, and I really like that the sales are kind of reflecting that because the sales have been insane for this game.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by it.
And if you want to, you can borrow my copy. I got a physical copy.
Yeah, I mean the way that you describe of how you get all your tools early on, and then the game from there on out is just kind of playing with those tool set.
Breath of the Wild, dude.
That's why I'm also curious about that game too.
Yeah.
So
it's a really fun. Like I said, the characters and stuff are good. I like it. Each floor has a boss ghost, and I like it how they're not generic ghosts per se. They have their own archetype, like an engineer, the Cleopatra type ghost, and all that kind of stuff, a DJ and stuff. But they all kind of these little personality and quirks on their own. And the use of quirks, they have some pretty fun, interesting boss fights where each one of them is very different, and you got to figure out how you got to use your abilities and stuff you learned sometimes on that very floor to get through the boss fight. Though I will say the one complaint, and this is I'm far from the only one to have this complaint, is the controls aren't particularly great. So you got to aim your your little vacuum cleaner things, and it's not very intuitive. Even towards the end, I had to really think about what I had to do to aim the direction I wanted.
Right.
And it sometimes got very frustrating. But the rest of the game is just so strong that it overcomes it.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, Luigi Mansion 3, great game.
My number 3 is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. I think when people talk about Sekiro, they talk about how difficult it is, and I definitely agree. I mean, I've played plenty. I played a good bit of. I played all the Souls games actually.
Yeah, I was about to say, is there any you didn't play?
No. And even this game, I was like, man, it felt like they really kicked up the difficulty of it. But I think part of that is also that the gameplay is so different, and it's really cool to see FromSoft do something, take their Souls formula and do something quite different with it. Not just in the setting, but the gameplay. It has some great, some of the best sword fighting I've played in a game.
Yeah,
where it feels energetic and kinetic, and keeping you on your toes. And I like the idea of you're not necessarily like trading blows, but you're trading or you're not really like I'm gonna smack this guy and he's gonna smack me. I'm gonna take health damage. I'm wearing down his posture so I can go in for a death blow and kill him in one hit, technically speaking.
Yeah. It's a lot less of like, I'm going to hit the boss until the bar goes down to 0. It's a lot more fluid and a lot more of like, you're doing things for a purpose.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, for a while I was like, man, I don't know if I can beat this game. But, eventually it kind of clicked for me. And, it's a game that, I think one of the criticisms people have thrown at is like, it forces you to be aggressive. And yeah, I mean, that's what the game is going for. It's not going for different builds like in a Dark Souls game.
Yeah.
It's always be offensive, always be aggressive all the time. And don't be a coward. Don't back down.
You bitches.
Yeah, even in the face of like a terrifying boss. And actually, one of my favorite gaming moment of 2019 was beating the final boss in Sekiro.
Yeah,
I
think a lot of people.
Yeah, man, he is a jackass. But beating him though felt incredibly satisfying, and he throws a lot of stuff at you.
I mean, did you like the kind of turn away from, because I know in Dark Souls, like obviously it's super hard and punishing, but you can go level up and get better gear and come back, and the fight is going to inherently be easier because you did that. But in Sekiro, there really is no way out. It's more about like you're gonna have to actually like get your patterns better and everything. Did you like that overall, or did you like it for a diversion? Do you think it's better? Do you want them to keep going that way, or? Yeah.
I think so. I think the game in the beginning it's very linear, but then once you get to kind of the main hub, it kind of branches out that way, and you can kind of choose where you go. So it's like,
right.
I don't know if I want to fight this boss right now. I can go explore this other path, and then I can come back to it later. Yeah. In that sort of way. Unlike other Souls games, you can't like increase your health without beating a boss. You can unlock skills which can definitely help in fighting it, but a lot of it boils down to pure skill, and I enjoyed that challenge a lot. I also really love the Shinobi prosthetic. Yeah. When I was thinking on the category for favorite game or favorite weapons, nothing like really stuck out to me. I know last year, I think your favorite weapon was the Leviathan axe from God of War.
Hell yeah.
Mine was the insect blade from from Monster Hunter World. As this year, I was like, well, nothing like that. But the Shinobi prosthetic, especially the firecrackers and the shuriken, were very helpful. The shuriken especially, it's a very humble. It's the first one you have. It starts out very humble, but then you upgrade it, and it becomes incredibly important for staggering enemies, comboing off of it in a way and kind of going in. It's a great opener, and or keeping them from regaining their posture when you need to back off to regain yours. So it's a very versatile tool. That's cool. So I really like the Shuriken Shinobi prosthetic.
That's awesome. I'll probably never be able to play Sekiro. But I'm going to try Bloodborne soon.
Okay.
My favorite weapon, by the way, was Jade Staff in Mortal Kombat 11. I forgot to say that. It's really good.
None stand higher than Bow Wow.
You're right. You won that category, Jeff. Congrats.
Yes, I finally won one. Number 2, Fire Emblem Three Houses.
That's not the right song.
Also has them as my favorite cast.
Nice.
So yeah, Darry has a lot of problems with this game. I mean, can't argue with your opinions, blah blah blah.
No, your opinions are wrong.
No,
I am saying that,
Jeff,
but
I am wrong in this moment. This is your stage to dunk on me.
No, but I love a lot of this game. I do agree with Darby though. I wish this game was more difficult. I know they added the higher difficulty later on, but it's also like, well, probably should have that in earlier.
Well, and
you can't just go to it. You got to start all the way over.
You can't move up difficulty at all. Like Ginny started on normal, and now she's just stuck there. Which is it's not just Fire Emblem. A lot of games do that, and it's dumb. But
yeah. So yeah. I really love the cast in this game. The Black Eagle House, very jolly bunch, very good bunch. The best waifus and all that, and Sakurai obviously agreed. He picked right when he decided what Black Eagle characters to put on that stage. But what I like about the cast is, Fire Emblem and this is a Fire Emblem thing in general. On the surface, they're all just a bunch of tropes. Even I would say in general for some of these, there's a little more to that, only a little bit more in the beginning. But the way they flesh it out and go sometimes against the tropes, and this is a character by character basis for sure, is with the character interactions that you do as you rank people's links or whatever up, either between the main character Byleth and them, or even the other, the characters up. Mm-hmm. You'll learn more about their backstories in the game and even see some growth with them or whatever, and trying to do stuff. Sometimes they deal with trauma, and you learn about that stuff and see them getting better. They may not always reflect in the main story, because for a lot of these characters, they're just kind of, when you do main story stuff, it's kind of window dressing. They're just kind of there because they can be dead,
right?
If they die before that point. But some characters showed actual growth through that, and I hate it because it seems like Darby got none of that for his Golden Deer playthrough up to that point.
I mean, I probably got a similar amount to you. I just really didn't vibe with it. I mean, it was the whole trope stuff. I mean, that's been true in a lot of Fire Emblem games, but it really got me in this one where it was just... I could almost predict what every character was going to say before they said it, because they were so one note. And even there were some tragic backstories and all of that, but even those were just kind of very... kind of typical, and maybe for Fire Emblem storytelling they tried to go to some places, but I feel like just the nature of the game and how many characters they had to go through, none of them were really able to be as strong as they should be. Mm-hmm. And Claude was definitely the strongest, but then at the halfway point when it flips forward, he just becomes the most generic hero character in the world. I mean, Fire Emblem Three Houses didn't have enough room to stretch with some of these, was my problem. So I don't think the Golden Deer were probably that much worse. I think it's just I don't like it. Yeah. I honestly argue even this is better than most Fire Emblem games. Honestly, you say Fate's more, but I know it's mainly from a gameplay perspective. Yeah, almost it's solely for the gameplay.
But character-wise, I think this is a giant step up from Fates and even
agree.
Awakening.
Yeah, I would totally agree too.
I think this is definitely one of the stronger ones out of I played. So, I'd probably go back to it because it's been a while. It was my first Final game, but maybe Radiant Dawn is the one I would say is the only one out of the ones I played that are stronger. Yeah. But I really jived with the characters, and I really liked them. With the whole backstories and all that. I like Edelgard as being my house rep, even if things didn't go exactly as you would have thought. There's some things that happen. But part of that is reason why I kind of have Edelgard kind of weekly as a runner-up for favorite character. Just her whole thing. I think it was pretty cool the way they did it, at least in the storyline I did. And I'd be interested to see how her arc kind of goes in different facets of the stories, And especially because there's something I think that was only in my story that it's like, well, yeah, this definitely adds some stuff to her kind of background and her motivations and all that kind of stuff. But as far as the whole gameplay thing, I agree with Darby. Definitely too easy. I wish that kind of ramped up and all that kind of stuff. I also agree with Darby that I definitely did, especially in Radiant Dawn, value the whole, potentially characters dying and then deciding to do all that kind of stuff. But it's been unfortunate, other than the couple times I've gone to play older Fire Emblem games. It might be why I'm kind of more okay with it. Also, I played the easy version of its Fates game, so that's part of it. I haven't had that kind of challenge really since Radiant Dawn. Awakening was easy.
That's what I mean. Conquest was so damn good, and the gameplay department. I agree with everyone else that the story was balls. It was really not that good, but the gameplay, Conquest reminded me so much of Radiant Dawn, and God, I missed it.
And Birthright was also kind of the same thing. Maybe a little harder than Awakening, but so I would even say some part. I'm not saying it's as hard, but there were definitely some of these challenges that were especially towards the end of the game, that were a little more difficult than Birthright and Awakening and most of the rest of the houses. But the reason I kept going is with Darby's thing about he didn't like going through the monastery and doing checklist stuff. I love that stuff. I loved going through that, and I loved kind of looking up stuff with the classes and making notes of and planning out way in advance what I wanted to make people as far as the classes goes, and working to do that. And then you sometimes get a new character and you're like, well, this changes everything and change things around, or you lost a character through story reasons, I gotta make this person this now to fill out this void.
Like a high school football coach.
This
boy will be a star.
And that stuff's a lot of fun, and I'm not going to say the Fire Emblem main story is strong, but it was pleasant enough. It was serviceable enough to get through the main, the most of get through the game, and the character moments and the gameplay and all that kind of stuff was enough for me to keep on going. And obviously, I put about 100 hours into this game to get through the first playthrough, so I put a lot of time and obviously love this game. Though again, I will reiterate as far as the story goes, those main bad guys they try to set up in the beginning of the game, at least in my playthrough, amount to absolutely nothing. Jacob, you would hate this. I know that. There's these much cultists people that they kind of set up as the main bad guys, but even they're kind of puppets in a way.
Right.
Then the time skip happens. They're gone through the whole thing, except for the next to last chapter. They come out of nowhere and you fight them, they go away. And honestly, you could remove that and nothing significantly changes except for nothing would change.
They were just they can't end the game on a political battle. It has to be some crazy magical earth-shattering thing.
No, and that's kind of thing of where it kind of helps me with the game. And I don't think this changes for Darby, but there was the end of the political battle. The ending for that thing
was a lot more satisfying.
I really liked it, and it spoke to me and all that kind of stuff. It got me a little emotional in a way.
Yeah.
So do that. As far as our differences of opinion with this stuff is the stuff just hit a lot more for me.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if the combat had been there, then honestly the social stuff and the story would have been enough for me.
Yeah.
I think I'm more critical about them just because I just got in this process where I'm I'm not really enjoying anything. I'm kind of enjoying some things, and it just got to be more of a chore than anything. If the combat had been Conquest or had been engaging, then I probably would be more on your. I think you obviously like the story more than I do anyway, but I would have been more on the story was good enough. I mean, the same way I would said with Awakening, I was the story's kind of weird, but whatever, it's good enough, Yeah.
I like it how, in general, except for the weird cultist stuff, the story is kind of more straightforward for the most part. Or at least, Black Eagles. I gotta imagine it's about the same in the other two.
Yeah, and they do enough to bridge the story along. There's definitely an element of almost fighting game stories where they're we gotta find a reason for them to fight.
So I am very excited to get to that DLC and see about that fourth house next month. All that kind of stuff. See what that's all about.
But it is weird how much Black Eagles does is the obvious main path of between the three. It's the only one that has like a branching, has a choice that matters. It's the only one that has a choice that matters.
It's not really a spoiler, Jacob, but the Three Houses, the Black Eagles is the only one that has 2 branching paths in its own. So and I did one, so it makes me like more up to doing a replay or a different playthrough because I'm already through the half of the game that would be the exact same. I would just get a whole different path. Plus, the one I didn't choose is apparently shorter, so that's kind of appealing to me as well.
This is too hot of a take that I don't really know if I even fully agree with it.
Hit us.
So it's not like my stance that I'm standing on or whatever. But I a little bit feel like, would it have been better just if you're going to do it like this to just make one game and actually one path and actually make that the really good path that like has choices that matter and everything, rather than split it into 3 and they're not created equal? It's like very obvious this one path is the one that is the main path or whatever, because like you have people spend a whole lot of time and have like kind of, they're not equal. They're like they're different, but they're like, it's obvious Black Eagles is the main path. It's like, I don't know.
There is partly a reason other than Edelgard is the female character out of the 3 that when talking about a Smash character for 3 houses, disregarding Byleth, they wanted her and say like, she makes the most sense.
I would rather her. Yeah.
Edelgard, best waifu.
Not as Dorothea. Waifu of the year.
No, I mean that's Dorothea.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I think waifu of the year is Judgment Man.
Oh, Yagami?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just tried to think of someone.
He can rock those skinny jeans.
Sam Porter Bridges, waifu of the year.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So yeah, I love 3 Houses. It's definitely up there as one of my favorite Fire Emblem games. So yeah.
All right. My number 2, my runner-up game of the year is Resident Evil 2.
I can't even think of what number 1 is.
That's what I was thinking.
We'll see.
What will it be?
I'm curious if it's like going to be obvious once we hear it.
It probably will be.
But Resident Evil 2 is a fantastic remake of a very classic game. I and a lot of, I'm not like 40. I didn't play Resident Evil 2 when it came out.
You're not?
What? No.
You're not my dad?
I'm the oldest?
But I did play RE2 like a few years ago, and I'm very fond of like classic survival horror. And, I was excited for a remake of Resident Evil 2. And I and a lot of the people were a little apprehensive, and they were like, okay, it's going to be over the shoulder, third person. But they translated kind of the tension of that classic game very well.
Yeah.
It's not very action. It's not RE5 is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's true to the survival horror roots of RE. You have to be very methodical in like your placement where you are, because it takes a second for like the reticle to like focus in and for Leon to take a shot, and so you kind of have to think about like your space between the zombie, like when should I back off, and it's a fantastic remake. It looks amazing. The Raccoon Police Department is like a runner-up for favorite setting. I love it takes the spookiness of that kind of very classic location and brings it to life in a very modern way. Mr. X is amazing, a fantastic feature to where there's a great moment because like you kind of go through the RPD and you get familiar with the layout. And then they throw in Mr. X, and it's like, okay, now you can't be leisurely about taking your time because this guy's going to be on you. And then I think something that's like kind of overlooked is just how good the weapons feel in RE2, the feedback that you have, the shotgun, the shotgun classic, survival horror weapon, and the shotgun in the remake is also great. Just kind of waiting for the zombie to get just close enough. So you can like blow its head off in one shot, so you can conserve ammo. Really great. And the game, of course, kind of keeps the feel of Resident Evil. It's still cheesy at moments. And I'm really excited for Resident Evil 3. Yeah, it's just a top to bottom amazing remake. I think it's probably it and Final Fantasy 7 are going to be like, these are how remakes should be. I was about to say like it's really cool to like this and Final Fantasy 7 are like. A big complaint about games and movies and everything recently has just been how many remakes and rehashes we're getting, just nostalgia baiting over and over and over again. But it's cool. These 2 remakes are striking the balance between, like, it has that nostalgia that brings you in and, like, honestly gives you a real look, like a real... at least feeling of what this original game was. Like, it's not just a new thing; it's giving you a feeling of this, but it's also like we're not going to stay rigid to that original design. We're going to feel like make. What would that experience? What will give you that same experience in the modern day? And it's these two remakes, I think, are going to be like looked at as like the holy grail of you know, what to do.
Resident Evil 2 is like, you know, as we mentioned before, there are a lot of games I wish I played this year. Resident Evil 2 is definitely at the top. It's partly from a timing thing. I'm going to play it, try to do that definitely before Final Fantasy 7 or before then or a little before, because RE3's coming out, so that gives me kind of a timetable, and I've gotten everything, so it's not much problem. It doesn't take too long, so I'm definitely going to get to it. But yeah, definitely one I wish I'd gotten to. And like you guys were saying, it's going to be that and Final Fantasy 7 are probably going to be the gold standard for remakes. RE2 definitely. Yeah, Final Fantasy 7 we can't say definitively yet. We need to get our hands on it.
But it's what it looks like. It's going to be really well done. But yeah, and just like the atmosphere in this game is amazing. It's incredible to me that you can make zombies scary again in a video game. You know, you kind of walking down a hallway and you see something like shuffle off in the corner, or you hear something tapping on the glass, and it's very unnerving. It's a great game to play with headphones and turning off the lights. So yeah, great game.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, my number one, to the surprise of everyone, is Kingdom Hearts 3. I got you. I got you. Yeah, it's shocking. I know. Boy. Yeah. As far as the
what's Goofy up to this year?
As far as the individual award things, got for best soundtrack for me.
That makes sense.
Hell yeah.
Setting. Come on, Disney Worlds. Come on.
Anime
Disney Worlds. Come on. I got a runner up for best cast. And runner up for best story. I know people will scoff at that, but fuck you. No. It's a fun, dumb, anime-ass story, and I'm here for it. Nomura's nonsense. And that's what I got in this game. Yeah, one of those games, kind of like with Tea Houses and stuff, where people have some complaints about the game, and I can mostly agree with those. It's just a thing of either your complaints or reasons why I like the game, or I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
And even some things I agree with. Like, people point out for like Disney stuff, the Frozen world is kind of weak compared to other ones, and I gotta agree. Just because of a standpoint of you're less involved. You're just kind of more there than all the other worlds. When you have stuff like the Toy Story world, which is a completely new story and all that kind of stuff, and you're actually interacting with Buzz and Woody and stuff, and you have Woody telling off Xehanort, and it's like, to make that my gaming moment of the year, Woody telling off Xehanort.
That's amazing.
They made fake Tim Allen say some anime ass bullshit.
So yeah, it's, I don't know. I love this game. Again, it has its issues, but I enjoy the combat. Kind of like with Fire Emblem. I wish it wasn't as easy as it was. Again, they added the difficulty thing later. So I'm hoping to at some point replay it with the new difficulty. But I was thinking of hoping to play it and then leading up to the DLC. But spoilers are all out there for the DLC, so I'm probably just going to say screw it and go straight into it.
Fair enough.
Yep. And
go right in, Jeff.
Yeah, as the end of the Xehanort saga, it's
the Xehanort saga.
Yep.
But are you going to play Xehanort the mobile game, Jeff?
Darby, that's going to have like actual implications on the lore, and I hate it, but also love it.
Who knew that 2019 would be the end of so many sagas? The Skywalker saga, the Xehanort saga. I mean, I'm sure there's some more.
Yeah.
I don't know, the Xehanort saga might have ended better than the Skywalker saga. I don't know.
I imagine.
Yeah, I like them. I like the worlds they added in. I think most of them are done very well. I love the fact that they decided, hey, you can just have a party of 5 instead of having to switch out Donald and Goofy for whatever character you join the world, and they all just on the screen at once, and a bunch of chaos. And I love it. All the Kingdom Hearts specific story stuff with all its crazy lore and stuff, I ate it up. I loved it. All that kind of stuff. I get why people complained about it again for some things, especially pacing. It was definitely backloaded.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it all the same. And yeah, excited for that DLC. And
Hell yeah.
and then even I'm like, oh yeah, they keep on saying it, so I know this. All the different spin-offs in the mobile game will probably be involved. I didn't know how much.
It's absurd degree.
The mobile game is a big part of it.
As is Kingdom Hearts tradition.
Yep.
So that's why you see that Xehanort thing. It's like, yeah, this is going to have a big part of it in some way, shape, or form.
I have to at least read a Wikipedia article.
Yeah, the Xehanort saga's done. But somehow this stuff leading up to how he becomes the big bad is going to be relevant for the future. Oh, God.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that we now live in a post Kingdom Hearts 3 world, and that the game that, despite its apparent flaws, really appealed to a lot of fans. Like it's what people wanted.
It's honestly, for how tortured it was coming out, it's just miraculous that it came out in any good state whatsoever. I mean, this was a game that people thought might legitimately never happen.
And it got number 8 on NPDs for the year.
Hell yeah, it did.
Yeah,
Can't stop the
crazy.
anime.
And they said that the next full Kingdom Hearts game, not the Xehanort game, is closer than we think. So whatever that means.
Wow.
All the Xehanort.
Actually, Final Fantasy VII Remake is the next Kingdom Hearts game. Sorg.
Darby, how would you react to that in the game Sorg?
Really pissed, Jeff.
What if Sora does not come to Smash, but Xehanort does?
I
don't know.
Well, yeah, Jeff, you ready for this time next year to listen to me do Nomura gushing?
Of course. I mean, I might
be supportive.
I might be with you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll actually play the Nomura game that you were gushing over.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't mean that as a slight. I mean it's not worse than I meant.
I'm not doing this.
I
not doing this.
I didn't mean that as a slight.
Too much to catch up on for that one. I played Final Fantasy X. I did my Jeff good friend help whatever thing.
Play Psychonauts next.
Then we'll talk.
You need to do something for me. You need to play.
I'm playing Witcher.
Yeah, okay, all right.
That's a way bigger commitment.
That's a pretty big commitment. All right, take us home, Jacob.
My number one.
Do you have any Jeff? Do you have a guess? Because I don't. For what his number one is.
I'm trying to think.
Would we get this right? Could we get this right?
You could guess, but it's not a game I've talked about with you guys.
Okay.
Did you play Disco Elysium?
I did play Disco Elysium.
Hell yeah!
That seems right up your alley. This makes sense.
No, I was like,
this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. What game has Jacob been really quiet about?
Yeah, it's honestly it's been an eerie quiet. It's been an eerie silence. Jacob should be talking about Disco Elysium.
Oh man,
I mean, this Scream to you game. I mean, Darby and I would like it too. I would love it too, obviously, but Scream's definitely you.
Yeah. Oh man, I love this game so much. It's so great. It's my favorite story for sure.
I can imagine character.
I have to imagine gameplay mechanic too, just with the rolls. And stuff.
There's a lot of
a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Favorite story, just the game begins with a very standard RPG setup that you're a guy who lost all his memory, but the way that it kind of handles that is very meaningful, and I
played the beginning of it and I agree so far.
Yeah, it's a thing where it's kind of really getting into it. It's a game that is so perfect for 2019 and how it encompasses the decade and in our world. Disco Elysium is set in a fictional world, but it very much, a lot of its themes and what it's saying very much is about our world and the way things are, how things have trended as far as politics and the economy. It tackles that, and it's a very strong statement on the state of the world as it is, where we see things like both a rise in fascism in the United States and in Europe, as well as maybe a defeated feeling a lot of people who lean politically left feel with the presidency of Obama, and the kind of the hopefulness of the center left, and just the how that failed and did not produce very much anything tangible at all. That definitely ties into it. It's a game that, when I think about it and what it says and how it's so tied to the to its development cycle. I think the game started development back in 2015 and came out in 2019, and so definitely feels like a product of that time period. And I do wonder, how will I and other people feel about this game maybe 10 years from now? Like, the world would be a very different place.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of cool with it being kind of like this time capsule sort of statement. But there's also other things that I really love about this game. The soundtrack is gorgeous. It's not very... There's a few really good like musical moments, but like just the general themes that you hear throughout the game are very heart-wrenching and very kind of capture the setting of the game, which is called Revachol, which is the city, and you're in a district, a low-income kind of industrial area called Martinez, and it's also my favorite setting because the writing and the way it brings this location to life and makes it feel like a place with a history, a very strong sense of history. Just kind of going into the game, there was pretty much a communist revolution in this country. And the rest of the world was like, we can't have that. And so the rest of the world came in and toppled the communist regime. And now the city is ruled over by a centrist kind of international organization. This neighborhood is where those international forces landed for the first time. So you can walk around the city, you can see bullet holes in the wall, and it's like, oh, that's where they lined up the revolutionaries and executed them. You can see, it's heavy stuff. You can see, there's also other things where, you can wander into this continuously failing business center, and you can learn about all the businesses that tried to start something here and failed for various reasons.
Yeah.
Boy, does that sound familiar. Yeah. The art style itself is beautiful. It has this paint-like quality to it, and it's beautiful, but also very. There's an urban decay to it. It's very bleak in a lot of ways, and it's constantly snowing or raining. It's very. It's a game that can come off very depressing and sad, and maybe on a surface level like nihilistic. But there's a lot of hope in it. I think there's a lot of warmth to it. A lot of very painfully, achingly human moments of like, I'm going to talk to this little girl outside the shop, and she's just adorable, and you just want to talk to her, or maybe talking to these two elderly guys, one who is part of the union that is on strike in the area, another guy who is an ex-monarchist who fought for the monarchy before the revolution. And there are these two people who ideologically hate each other, but they're somehow still friends. And just kind of like talking to them and getting a feel for the people that live in this world. Of course, the mechanics itself, it's a game there's not like traditional gameplay in like the typical video game sense. It's a lot of dialogue, and you have all these various personalities. There's 24 different like skills which act as like aspects to your personality that will interject at parts.
And they'll actually physically talk to you. Yeah.
And the crazy thing too is that you can't always trust them. Like sometimes they will say things and they'll lead you in a direction that's not a good idea. Yeah,
they'll tell you something like, "Oh, he's trying to do this to you when he's not," or like this. I've heard people talk about that where it's like, they'll lead you astray. It'll actually be like text comes up and you should ignore it.
Yeah. Even as I was, it came up as something I can't even remember what the context was or what it said or anything. I was like, one of those inner things, like, nah.
Yeah, but and there's ones where it's like obvious. Like there's one that's like electrochemistry, and you're a recovering alcoholic, so it's like you should really drink some alcohol to so you can feel better. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that. I really shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But other ones, it's like empathy, and like you start falling. You're kind of falling into somebody's. Someone's like someone's situation, and you're not really getting useful information out of them. So it's like maybe you shouldn't listen to your empathy in this moment.
Right.
One of my favorite one of those aspects is called Shivers. God, I love Shivers so much. It's pretty much vibing with the city, like being like feeling the spirit of Martinez in your soul. And so the thing that it does the most is that it just kind of gives you beautiful prose, like to just read and like soak in the scene. There's a scene with your partner, his Kim Kitsuragi, who is also my favorite character from 2019. That he's a guy. This game would not work without Kim Kitsuragi. He's a fellow detective who's helping your character solve this murder, which someone was hung in a tree behind a hotel. It looks like a lynching, and you need to figure out what happened. And so this guy works as a foil to you, but man, it's like there's a character. He's a character that I deeply wanted to like impress, and I deeply wanted this character to like me because he's just so complex and interesting. And there's a beautiful scene where like your character and this guy Kim, you're sitting on like a swing, and you can kind of just be like, "Hey, what's your favorite blue thing?" Like just like kind of random stuff like that, or you can like do a like little whistle melody with him. And then like the shivers skill will describe the scene to you, and incredibly moving. This is like one of the best written games I've ever played. Certainly like a game probably like the most text I've ever had.
There's a lot of reading.
Yeah, tons of reading. So if you're not into that, probably not the game for you.
That's part of the reason I haven't played it yet, because it's one of those games where I'm okay with all the reading, but I gotta be the right mindset to.
Right.
Which I haven't been that much recently to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a game where I will sit and I will talk to a single person for like 40 minutes, and that's fine by me.
Wow. Yeah.
Just there's a lot of things I could talk about with Disco Elysium that we don't have time for.
It's interesting. I'm not saying that like one is more valid than the other, better than the other, but it's an interesting parallel to me, at least just looking at these two games, to have like Outer Worlds and then to have this, where Outer Worlds feels like it's definitely call back to like the old Fallout games and everything, and we're gonna do like you have your charisma thing, and that helps with your dialogue here, and that's that, and you have your bartering that helps with this. You have the like these clearly defined things that like I stepped in there, and even though this was a new game, everything was like, okay, yep, I know what I'm doing here or whatever. And it's an interesting parallel to have Disco Elysium that is like we still have an RPG with skills and stats and everything, but we're going to completely shake up how those skills and stats work and how you interact with them in the game, and make them into like people talk about it like Disco Elysium stat distribution and the way the stats do being the future of RPGs, which I don't think that's the case, because I don't want every game to be like this. But I do think that is such a unique way of like, we're going to take this genre we love but like make you engage way deeper than you ever have with these stats that you've come accustomed to. So like, not only do you have like a speech that's a catch-all for everything, you have empathy like telling you to feel sorry for this person when you shouldn't. You have your paranoia speaking to you and stuff. Like, I think that's very interesting.
Yeah. It's also a game with no game over states. Like you will fail forward.
Right.
I mean, oftentimes, it's not perfect. It is a video game at the end of the day, and so you can't. Sometimes it's like, oh, you're just not going to get that information because you didn't pass the roll. But in big decisions, you can fail something and it will keep going, or you can find there's always another solution to a problem. So yeah, it does that very well. And like really, like in the game, there's only one skill check you have to pass at all.
No, so the rest of it can fail.
Yeah. And sometimes it fails in a very interesting way where you actually will benefit from that failure. So it's an incredible game. I love it a lot.
It's also kind of refreshing to have a game that actually takes stances and has messages, because it's kind of frustrating to have like the Divisions and Call of Duties and other games like that of the world that want to have a very political backdrop and political setting, but then say like, oh no, but we're not political. This game's not political. We're not taking these stances. We're not. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? You're set in like a dystopian Washington D.C. And it's like, I don't know. It is kind of refreshing to have a game that's like, no, we're actually going to. We're not going to shy away from things just in order to sell more copies of things.
Yeah. Well, and to go with that also, doing all that and then being successful. I have to imagine sales for this game are good for it.
But it doesn't seem like it was trying. It was not like beating the sales.
And then obviously winning all those awards at the Game Awards, it ended up, correct me if I'm wrong, ended up winning the most out of any game.
I think so.
So
yeah. Well deserved, I would say. It's a game that blatantly, you interact with a lot of awful things. You very quickly you're interacting with various political ideologies, racism, and so on. And yeah, it's a very abrasive game for the first few hours, but then you kind of settle into it, and then the game kind of tips its hand and shows you what it's really about. I think it can be very harsh in the beginning, but that's something that I would encourage people to kind of move past and see more of the game.
Well, that has been the Nerds at Large 2018 Awards, maybe the longest podcast we've done now. Jacob, I'm sorry you've been involved with multiple super long mega podcasts that we've done.
I'm going to go ahead and say this is our longest one. I don't think we've had one break 3 hours.
Yeah, we have.
Or so barely.
Yeah, we've broken 3 hours, but I think this is definitely the... it was very short. It was not that long ago.
Yeah,
that we broke 3 hours. It was one of these last few ones that we have just subject Jacob to many hours.
It's just my curse. That's what I do.
Good thing I had less games, right? Because this is still to go. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Check out Jacob's blog post that he's going to make.
Yeah. My top 10 list is pretty much what I said here. It's up in writing. It's already on the blog, so you can check that out if you want.
Nice. So yeah, nerds@large.wordpress.com. Go check that out. And until next time.